Still in there.
Actually, everybody good? You have Jenny on the phone?
Yep, she's on.
Grace, are you good? Excellent. Good evening, everyone. At this time, I would like to call this May 2nd, 2023 meeting to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Here.
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 Here. At this time, I'd like to report on our last executive session on April 4th, 2023. We discussed litigations, real estate, and personnel. No action was taken. At this time, do I have public comment on agenda items? Ms. Knoll, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. Dawn Knoll, 123 State Street. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when I sat there, Mr. Grove came before us and said that the two parcels that are in question tonight were zoned residential, but he went to the borough and had them changed to commercial. And then a prior council rezoned them and didn't tell him and rezoned them residential again. Am I correct in that assumption? My memory?
I don't recall that.
Well, I think you might be close, but as far as telling him, I wouldn't portray it as they did something illegal, because any time you change your zoning map, there's an advertisement that goes out through the community, and it probably
Yeah, if
followed
it's a
that.
comprehensive municipal rezoning, you don't notify everybody. If
But-
you're doing one lot, you do.
But he did come before the borough and have them changed once.
Yeah, he produced some evidence from some years ago that he had succeeded in getting the council to move a residential property to
Correct.
commercial, which then, a decade later,
Right, they was
got moved
rezoned.
back to residential. Yeah.
And we voted on that, and unfortunately, there was one person that shot it down. I'm asking that you, council, let him do what he needs to do. He's a business owner. Another business wants to come in. We are landlocked. You should just be grateful that a business wants to do business in our borough. Because I'm going to tell you, if I was a business person, I wouldn't come here. So that you have another business wanting to come in, why would you deny them? You pushed out the Dollar General, and now if you don't push this through, you're pushing out another one. What are we going to do?
I'm really confused. I'm sorry. Was there any denials made that
I don't know.
No, the last developer,
No, I'm not talking.
No, this
I'm,
one.
I'm talking about.
oh, this one, no.
No.
Oh, okay. I was like really confused for a second.
Yeah.
No, for the record, no denials
has
have
been
been
none.
made in regards to the car wash.
Right.
Any other general public comment? Or I'm sorry, public comment on agenda items?
If you would, Mr. President, I'd like to reserve comment on items 6 and 13 as they come on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. 6 and 14. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 1.
Do I have a motion to approve council meeting minutes for the April 4th, 2023 meeting as submitted?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Seitz, second by Councilor Vice President Willenbecker. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 2.
Do I have a motion to approve payment of bills as shown on the accounts payable list, plural, dated April 13th and April 26th, 2023, which is for the period of March 30th, 2023 through April 26th, 2023, and to ratify approval of those bills already paid and to authorize the appropriate officials to take the required actions to make those payments.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Lister, second by Vice President Willenbecker. Any questions or comments on the bills? Yes, Ms.
Yeah, I
Lloyd?
have a question. Who is McMahon Linehauser PC?
Sure, please. Any other questions on the bills? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Motion carries with 1 no. Agenda item number 3.
We have with us tonight the folks from Shiny Shell Coldwater Development to make a presentation and request for map and text amendment for rezoning residential to commercial lots for the Grove property.
Good evening. My name is Chris Coons. I'm with Pannoni Associates, and we are the engineer.
Is the mic on?
Is it on? I'm just too tall.
There.
Can I move it up? I'll bend over. My name is Chris Coons. I'm with Pannoni Associates, and I'm here tonight representing our client, Coldwater Capital, and the Shiny Shell Car Wash. A few months ago, we came to the borough to kind of present ourselves and introduce the car wash, Capital Car Wash, Coldwater Capital Car Wash, and their Shiny Shell Car Wash. Do you have the stuff from last week? Okay, then we'll just do it this way. No, that's all right. I forgot to bring it myself. So the sites we're talking about in this request tonight is across from the Giant. It's actually 4 lots. It is 447 East Main Street, 471 East Main Street, 475 East Main Street, 453 Cedar Avenue. The 2 requests that we're looking for tonight, the first is a zoning map amendment to have the 2 lots which are zoned residential single-family low volume, or R1, to have them rezoned to match the other 2 lots which are zoned commercial shopping C1. The reason for this is the car wash would be taking up all 4 of those lots, so we want to combine them into 1 lot, having them all be under the same zoning. That's the first request we have. The second request would be to have a text amendment to allow the car wash to be a permitted use within that C1 shopping center. When we approached you guys 2 months ago, kind of showing you our presentation, felt like we got some good feedback, felt like there was some interest in it, so that's why Capital Coldwater would like to proceed and start the process of seeing if we can get the zoning changed in order to develop this land. Is there any questions I can answer you?
What is the next steps for both sides?
So the next steps normally would be, usually I think you were gonna use Charlie Courtney, maybe McNeese.
So we've started getting some.
Yeah,
some
you could have
information provided
contact,
to us.
but, quite often, you guys would put together, here's a rough draft of an ordinance, and then we would look at it, and, for the text amendment, now, I think we also talked about potentially putting some standards in the
Yes.
car wash, potentially.
Yes, I mean, the understanding we had was that we had to approach you guys first and make sure you were willing to agree with this
Yeah, I
decision.
think that was the,
Assuming that
no,
it was, we would agree, then you guys would start the process of the, setting up the public hearings and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
While we work on the text
Right.
amendment to get your approval for.
yeah, well, we would need to actually have a, draft of, usually they're in tandem, we do 2
Okay.
separate ones, one with the map amendment, real basic saying, change these tax parcel numbers from this to this. And usually we'll attach a little mock-up, almost like you guys had of the plan showing the, what the colors would be on the proposed,
Yeah, and that's.
Zoning map.
We had that,
and then the text amendment. But we kind of need those to send to the Dauphin County Planning Commission, which has to have it for 30 days, and to our local planning commission, So
Okay.
we normally would try to quickly put together back and forth, here's a document, and then bring it back to council, like maybe the next work session or something. Are you guys okay moving this forward? In which case, that's when we would advertise, send it to the two planning commissions, and then set up a hearing here to approve it.
Okay, that was not how I thought we were. I thought this was for you guys to approve us to begin the process, so then we could get that information together for you.
Yeah,
We do,
I
we do
guess-
have them working on it now. The other issue we have with this is, Coldwater Capital is they're currently in a due diligence process, so we're just trying to see that, is this process going to be moving forward, or, I guess I'm saying, if you guys are going to deny it, there kind of answers the question right there before we start putting all this stuff together, so.
So you want to know if if anybody currently has any objections to your preliminary plans and
Yeah, I think there
proposals.
was some mention, maybe framing it as authorizing the solicitor to work with them,
Yeah,
and then that way there's a motion to put on the table.
right.
It doesn't bind anybody to anything.
Yeah, I mean, again, the communication we kind of got from the borough and everything was that we just needed to come to you guys, present. I'd say, again, last month we did have documents already provided you guys. that
Yeah.
Kind of showed the zoning changes and whatnot. We were kind of told that's kind of what we needed. If you guys are on board with it and you say, yes, we approve it, you start the process, we kind of complete finishing up that text amendment to get
Right.
to allow you to start saying what things you want changed and whatnot. We do have that in the process right now. We are working on that. We just didn't have it done for
Okay.
today's meeting. I'm hoping by maybe the end of the week or next week, we'll have that for you guys to begin looking at.
I mean, council could do some motion, but it's not anything but, it has, an ordinance amendment obviously goes through a process.
Correct.
And
Understood.
But-
There's a much larger process there, but
you could authorize,
Right. Does
moving
council,
forward.
the members here tonight have questions or concerns or any, looking at the preliminary proposal, the information that you have in your packet?
And then would you need, during that due diligence, a solid answer on vacating some piece of road?
if we can start working down that process to kind of get your guys' input, I mean, I think this seems to be the first biggest hurdle, if we're not able to rezone it, put the lots together, that kind of answers a lot of the
Right.
issues
right.
we have. I think the stuff with the vacation of the right of way and kind of realigning any access easements you guys required, Coldwater is more than happy to work through that with you guys and meet whatever requirements you might have to kind of keep that traffic motion going through the lot as it was.
So I guess I don't know if you guys want to do a motion of some sort, just to give them some comfort level. It's not anything binding, though. I mean,
Any
it's-
questions?
Does anybody have any questions at first glance? Would anybody be willing to entertain a motion to approve?
To direct the solicitor to work with Coldwater and their Pannoni to get the documents put together for the planning commission and
Advertising.
advertising.
I guess simple enough is, would somebody like to make a motion for our solicitors to work with Coldwater and their team?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Lloyd, second by Vice President Willenbecker. Any questions or comments?
Just open up for public comment.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, it was
Oh, so
on
it's
the
on the
agenda.
agenda.
It's on the agenda, yep. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain, and the reason for my abstention is this is a decent-sized commercial project in the borough. Everybody knows that I have an electrical contracting company, and if it ever does come to fruition and to open bid, I would want to be able to, bid on that project with my company. So that is the reason for my abstention, and I will withstand from any votes or discussions. Okay, motion passes.
So at this stage, just to kind of clarify what you're saying, you would like to see that text amendment and everything prior to any kind of pushing it? Or we'd have to get that stuff and come
Yeah,
back
so
here for another meeting?
that's the physical thing we need
Yes.
to push out to the planning commissions, and then we need to summarize that for the advertisement.
Okay.
So it's just,
Do we need to come back here for another meeting to begin that process? Or if I
we should be able to work through that. This council we usually approve the formal advertisement, that way everybody eyeballs it.
Okay.
because if, you know, council has a little consensus of, we like the idea, but we want to change that paragraph, we have to re-advertise it if they haven't,
Okay,
you know, if we don't catch that before we send it out, if it's a
Okay.
material change.
okay.
If you're really against the, you know, edge of a deadline, we can, you know, there's no law saying there needs to be governing body action to advertise something, but
Yeah.
that's our custom here, so we know we have it buttoned up enough that it's not gonna change after we spend money on advertising.
Yeah, I'm more looking at it, the fact like, okay, if we get something to you by the end of this week on Friday, you know,
Yeah, we have another meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, so you guys will be able to kind of get that input.
You
Okay.
could, you want him to send it through Jason, through staff,
Yeah, why don't you, because you guys can work.
through our code
plans.
office, and he can forward anything to Jim that he needs to.
Yeah, we'll get a more final exhibit put together with that, kind of what we started showing
Yeah.
with the changes, and we'll, like I said, the text amendment stuff is being worked on. so
Yeah, and
we'll get
I'm not
that.
imagining the text to be anything too
No, I mean,
you know,
you had some
robust.
conversation.
We just
yeah.
we just thought, you know, new things came up, concepts of, you know, there are houses around it. We don't want things running in the middle of the night, that kind
Understood.
of stuff, which all kind of aligned with the
Yeah.
operations you guys were proposing, so.
And we did do a similar with Lingostown, I'm not sure which one it was, but one of the Lingostown sites, we had to work on similar type of text amendment for Lower Paxton Township to kind of have, like you said, specific requirements to keep
Yes,
things
you
from
can, you know,
operating.
if you have an example, we're certainly happy to look at that.
Okay.
Probably
We'll get
makes
someone to
sense.
you, hopefully the end of this week, beginning of next week, then we can
Yeah,
start that
that'd be
process.
great.
Excellent. Thank
you
you
very
very much for your time. Agenda item number 4.
Do I have a motion to ratify the approval and acceptance of the $500,000 DCED multimodal grant fund contract for the Emil Street project?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Seitz, second by Vice President Willenbecker. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 5.
Do we have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-1404, amending Chapter 201 to modify the International Property Maintenance Code definition of rubbish and provide for modified requirements relating to weeds, noxious vegetation, and trees?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice President Willenbecker, second by Counselor Lister. Any questions or comments on the rubbish? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 6.
Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-1405, amending Chapter 23, repealing provisions providing for oversight of the funds and spending of the fire department?
And this is where were you reserving
Yes.
or asking to speak on this one specifically?
Excuse me. I was intimately involved at the time that Chapter 23 was written. And there were some legal technicalities at that point. I guess the two questions the fire department has, and this comes down to, I think it was the March 31st meeting, we left here and the statement was made that there was some work needed to be done on that chapter of the Borough Code, and now we're eliminating it. The second thing that we have is going forward, what is going to replace the oversight as far as budgeting and finance goes? What is going to govern to us how we are supposed to conduct the business of the distribution of funds that the borough gives us?
Well, I think we're not planning on you changing anything you've been doing in the past. This ordinance is trying to reconcile, in actuality, how you're handling things now by removing certain provisions from the chapter that say that you need to come in for purchase orders and follow our purchasing policy. The fire department being a 501c4, I believe, has rules that dictate how you manage your funds. And it's kind of in conflict with this ordinance, the current ordinance, and we're removing those conflicts. For example, that meeting, Kenny came in and thought that he had to get a purchase order maybe from the manager to make an expenditure over $500 or whatever is in our policy that he wasn't aware of. We said, well, when the previous council, changed the procedure for the fire department being an actual department of the borough to being a standalone entity that they're working with, contracting with in a sense for fire services and giving a payment, an annual payment, they should have addressed the ordinance then. And they did not. And that's what we're looking to do now, is to clean that up.
And where will we find that after this is eliminated? Where will we find that guidance?
Of how to operate and.
Yes.
I would think that your organization probably should come up with some standard policies or procedures in your bylaws of how you handle your finances and who does what, when, and who signs checks and who approves what.
Yeah, so by law, under the state borough code, council will need to look at the expenditures that had been made before it gives more money. That's part of the law. This micromanaged the old provision down to several $100 expenditures had to come in here, each one get approved. That custom went away, which meant it wasn't following the ordinance. So we're removing that from the ordinance. There was a discussion with Kenny Whitebread about looking at having audits done annually, and that we would expect that that would be factored into the monies that you guys would need covering that audit, but then we'd at least have an audit of those expenses. So that would cover.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that under the finance report. So as it is right now, we're basically on our own with the contribution that the borough gives to us.
Yeah, you'll have to account for that at the end of the year essentially to get any more money, because that's the law.
Okay,
And that was the discussion about having an audit, and I know
okay.
Chief Whitebread
Well-
welcomed that.
I believe the funds that the borough gives were limited to, was it operation expenses?
Operations and maintenance, yes.
Operations and maintenance.
Right.
So as I guess as long as your guidelines use the money that falls under that umbrella, I guess it's your money to spend, right?
We need to talk about that under the finance report.
But
Okay.
as far as the procedure and the audits that we'll talk about then, since that change back in maybe 2013 or whatever, roughly about the time that happened, where the donations started happening.
Yes.
And-
When Mr.,
Yes, yeah. Then, since that time, the audit process that the borough goes through for all of its departments does not include the fire department for the past 13 years. So, I think we probably assumed, or at least I did, because I didn't know, wasn't here when that whole change happened or what the thing was. I think it was probably done, a little quickly and maybe not with a lot of, as much thought as it should, but, now that we know how it's being handled, it's a good business procedure for you to have an audit. An auditor can help you with policies for purchasing and help you with internal controls and give you guidance. So that's one of the things that we get out of audits, or that anybody gets out of audits. They just take a sample of what you're doing and say, you ought to do this. Maybe you ought to have 2 signatories when you only have 1, and so forth. Maybe you ought to
Okay.
keep your packing slip. But there's no way we could have an audit the way it stands today, because we don't have a record. Packing slips, orders, anything of your purchases, you're all been separate for the past 9, 10 years.
well, since Mr. Hamer was here as a consultant is when that all changed.
While you're still standing there, does anybody have any objection into amending the agenda to move line item 14 to right now while we're all talking about this? Anybody?
Number 13.
No, it's number 14.
Yeah.
Moving 14.
Oh,
Oh,
But-
fire department one.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
I'm sorry.
Why not 13 and 14?
I just figured since he was
Right.
standing here, we were talking about this. Do we want to?
right. Makes sense. We're talking about it, yeah. It's a good idea, Ian.
Is everybody okay with that? So we're gonna
Yeah.
kind of just roll 13, 14, and 6 all together right now. We're gonna just talk about it.
Okay, I think it was the March
Mr.
Yeah, Jim, I was just gonna say, do you have hesitation with us repealing this?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Our question is going forward, how we're going to,
Have it,
even though that wasn't being followed to the letter, at least it was for a while, but it kind of fell apart when, a previous council changed a lot of things.
But recently, it hasn't been, so.
No, it hasn't been touched for
10 years, yeah,
6, 8 years.
8 years.
Mm.
No, we're not adding a new item, we're just taking something out of order.
What other questions and concerns do you have?
All right, on the subject of an audit, again, we refer back to the March 21st meeting. When the fire department left this room, we were under the assumption that this audit was going to be on the $150,000 contribution we get from the borough. I think, one of the comments that Mr. Kleinpeter made was that, he was thinking of an itemized list of expenses. In your packet, you have an itemized year-to-date list of every check that we've written against the $150,000 contribution that we get. We can certainly supplement that with our bank statements every month if there's a question. Somewhere along the line, the whole process of this audit, at least in our minds, has changed to where we are now going to be audited, let me just read the exact words here in this thing. I'm not going to read the entire sentence, but anyway, these auditors are going to have should there be substantial doubt about the fire department's ability to continue as going for a reasonable period of time. Now, that certainly changed from us accounting for the $150,000 donation to what it says in this document from the auditors. So what we would like to propose is this. We would like to table any action on this audit. We will continue to provide a monthly statement of each and every expense that we occur against the $150,000, supplemented by not purchase orders, but packing slips, invoices, whatever you folks want. From what I read, and I only had a little while to digest this is going to cost the borough and the taxpayers as much to perform this audit as what we asked for in the $20,000 increase. And that doesn't seem, if there was a thought somewhere along the line that there's misappropriation of money, or we bought 76 trombones and don't have a band with the taxpayers' money, I could probably understand it.
But you have a nonprofit that has no audits ever? You don't do it?
That is correct.
Okay.
Right.
And you came in November and raised the viability, short-term, of the fire department that you want the borough to put money into. But you guys don't want to see an audit that you're not paying for?
The document that was presented to the borough, I don't think was edited, and there should have been some changes to that before it was released to the council. I think the term was intervention that was used. That meant solely for two things. Number one, the continuing increase in the cost of apparatus and the increased cost of our operations and maintenance. It had nothing to do with the fiscal ability of the fire department to stand as an organization. Unfortunately, that document wasn't edited to say that. The other
Jim-
thing,
Mhm.
we received an email that says that these auditors want our IRS tax returns. Our tax returns, with the exception of showing the donation as income, provides no information to the expenditures of the donation we received from the borough. There's no way to correlate the two.
Mhm. If, may I, have a recollection of that same meeting last November? And Jim, you are referencing records that may not have been released without thorough editing? Is that what you're saying? My recollection
The
was,
memo that you folks got the end of last year,
yeah,
unfortunately, was not proofread, edited, whatever term you want to use.
mm-hmm,
And it was, I guess it was easy to misconstrue the intent of that memo.
Right.
Excuse me, that memo.
my recollection is not, I misconstrued something from misedited or not completely edited documents, but rather, and we could probably go back to the minutes and look at it again, but it was Chief Whitebread who made the statement. So our understanding of the possibility of the fire department not being solvent going forward was not us misconstruing documents, but it was a statement from the fire chief. So you can imagine from our standpoint, because the fire department is such a critical public service, that would, get our attention, if you will.
And I can appreciate that. And I'm not going to comment on that any further. That's why we're saying we would like to go forward here, put this audit on the table, and do two things. Number one, we will continue, and you tell us what the deadline is to give you a monthly itemized report of every expenditure. And number two, that we would initiate a working group between council, staff, and the fire department to come up with some recommendations for going forward here. There's a bunch of unopened items that people aren't familiar with. And what really, I had a very productive session with Sally and Linda in here last week, and there's tribal knowledge, there's institutional knowledge, there's memorandums of understanding, there's contracts that have been written, and to try to have a working group to put this together so we have a playbook.
So one of the things, though, we can't advise
Right.
your organization as an organization how to run itself, and we can't police it, and we can't really provide staff every month to go through all your bills and still be behind where an auditor legally gets us. I mean, it's just not, doesn't make sense to put it together that way.
See, this is what we provided. Now, this will grow to about 10 or 12 pages once the year drags on. But it's an itemized list of
Yeah, it's a
everyone.
paper, but I mean, auditors look at, not that there were 200 gallons of fuel bought on this day, but they'll look at, well, the maximum size of the tank was 180. Somebody, followed that in, and put gas in their personal car. They look at those things. You never can tell that from that list. There's a big difference between your self-created list of here's what we say we spent the stuff on versus what an auditor does. They do random samples. They'll contact the vendor to make
Okay.
sure the vendor really billed.
Right.
I'm 100% in agreement with you, but what does the department's finances have to do with how we spend the taxpayers' dollars?
Well, it's first of all, you put money into this organization, is it stable enough? Is it, is the integrity there financially, all that kind of stuff? Is it gonna hold up, the investments? And then really, are those monies being spent? Does it tick and tie for an auditor? That's something that, if you're not doing it internally, I mean, if you guys had your own audits and say, oh, we're totally audited like any good, solid, best practices nonprofit, we have an auditor every year. You're telling us you don't, and your books were a mess last year. That's what the upshot was. We need help. We don't have our books
Where,
under
where
control.
did that come from? Our books
Well, you
are
had
a
to
mess.
come in here to meet with Sally. Hours and hours and hours and hours of municipal staff time because you didn't know where, or maybe not you, but other people didn't seem to have, all the books up to, at least up to being auditable.
So Jim, we are trying to sort out the relationship between the borough and the fire department.
Well,
And with
when,
this
when
new,
the solicitor says our books are a mess, I'm not sure that that's a very productive comment.
Well, you said you brought in inflammatory, unedited stuff, sent everybody down the wrong path. It at least seemed like there was a reason for financial concern. I mean, I don't know how it got there. We didn't create the unedited.
The way I took it, maybe I'm wrong, it wasn't that there was financial concern necessarily, like in terms of they were misappropriation of funds.
Yeah, no, I don't think
Right,
anybody said
no.
that. It was more
or
of,
the
do you
books
know
are in
you're gonna be
chaos.
viable?
It was just that the expenses have risen past what was being contributed. Correct?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't take it as.
Well, no, that's not entirely true, because if you go back in time, the fire department first came in here during our budget season, and they were asking for like, what, $70,000. They didn't know what their actual deficit was. So I guess that was how it got construed to being the fire department didn't know what their books were, because they came in asking for this massive, large sum of money, but they couldn't justify why we would need 70 grand. Well, why do you need 70
Over on
grand?
top.
What is your actual
an
deficit?
additional.
So
An
we
additional.
passed our budget season. Going into this year is when the fire department constructively worked with our finance department to find out what is that actual deficit. And that's when the $25,000 number kind of came to fruition. And we were like, okay, we were here at 70, coming in here really not knowing. We were able to help the fire department narrow down the deficit to the 25,000, and that's where we're able to come from. That's where my understanding is
Right.
we are today. We worked together. I think we had great teamwork between the borough and the fire department to get us to this point.
I
And
think we should have good teamwork because, I mean,
Well, see, that's Scott, the thing that's confusing, because if this ordinance is in fact changing the relationship between the borough and the fire department, when it comes to finances, they are now a separate entity. You're no longer under the borough. You're not an entity that has to do purchase order procedures and like it was. So this new relationship, as this states, is if you're a separate entity, a 501(c)(4), then you do not have to, as I understand it, and we're just trying to work through this together, as I understand it, the time spent with Sally was to address what Ian said. We put $70,000 or 75 on, what was
On
the
hold.
term, on hold.
if you want to call it that.
But you needed to understand what you needed more immediately, so we worked together to do that. That, to me, was kind of a one-time transitional practice of assigning the staff to the fire department to noodle through that. That was all very good. I think that got everybody on a better, clearer understanding. When it just comes to that $70,000 on hold. But this ordinance, I think, as we understand, sets you apart now from not working with the borough, from not having to check with Sally on your purchase orders anymore. You're operating like a separate entity,
Getting rid of the micromanaging.
getting rid of the micromanagement, if you will. And so, like separate nonprofits, if you will, there's those common practices that when you come to someone from whom you're asking funds, you are able to show them the previous year, the current year, and the following year, that 3-year arc. And I say that with some confidence because I've worked in nonprofits all my life and I've approached other funders, and that's kind of the typical information you're asked to provide. It's not anything unusual because you're the fire department and we're the borough. That's just kind of practice as everyone out in the world who asks for funds to do. And if you go out and look for other funders, they also might ask for that kind of common, familiar, predictable kind of information. So for me, it's not because we think there's anything, funny with the practices. It's just that if our relationship is changing, then the way that we exchange information would also be in line with this new entity, as I understand it.
One thing I was gonna add in, Jim, if I was in your shoes, I'd want it done just to protect myself too, like you personally. So because you're the man here taking care of the books, and yes, you know what's going on, but what if somebody is behind the scenes doing a little something dirty? You got a second set of eyes.
I thought that's what Chief Whitebread said to us.
I would
I thought he
think that's what
said,
he-
we think it's great as long as you guys are paying for it. which
And,
said-
and that, again, was our understanding on the contribution. It was not on our funds.
Okay, I have a couple questions. So first, how long has the fire department been its own entity? Separate from the borough? Was that in 2013, 2012?
No, whenever the McNamara regime took over, whatever that was,
How long you been a nonprofit?
Yeah,
a nonprofit,
yeah.
since 1827.
So the only thing that happened, what we're talking about in 13, was the financial relationship changed. In that the relationship before was, we're going to budget a certain amount of money on our books, and when you need it, you come in, write POs, and we have a finance director who would deduct it and keep track of the book. That's what changed in 13 or 14, whereas keep your own books.
Yes,
Here's the money.
yes.
So I have a question by something you just said. I'm
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead, I'll wait, go ahead.
Because this is really important. Is the question on the fire department doesn't want to audit, are you looking to just audit just the borough funds or
Yes.
globally?
Yes.
Or,
Yes,
so does the fire department want to just only audit the borough funds or?
Yeah. yes.
Not okay, so that was part of what I was
Because
getting
that, when you said that,
So-
okay, go ahead.
Not your general fund, right?
Yes,
Just the operating fund, which is, your operating fund is the money just that is contributed from the borough, correct?
yes.
So you're okay with the audit? Okay, so let me back up here. So I personally like this because I think as a citizen and taxpayer in the town, anyone can see this if they want to know, because our taxes are going towards that donation, this is good. Now, as a taxpayer, let's say, for example, I wanted to privately donate $10,000 to the fire department, and that goes into your general fund.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal business. I personally wouldn't want that out there because maybe there's a reason why I wanted to donate it, and I don't want everybody to know. So I can certainly understand why you don't want your general fund in this audit, because honestly, it's not really, in my opinion, and there are 7 people here, well, actually there aren't right now, but we should know what's going on in the operating fund, because it's taxpayer money, but what comes into your general fund from donations, whether they're from the borough or, residents, or you probably get donations from people that don't live in the borough, that's not really the borough's business, in my opinion, because that's not our contribution.
Except that it is common practice, and it gives a kind of, I think to Scott's point, like an objectivity to someone who can say, yes, this operation is solid and things are swimming and the practices of purchasing and reporting are all good. So I'm not clear why that wouldn't be a benefit to the department. And in addition, for the borough, yes, there is the donation that we make, and then the sinking fund at the end of the year, and then the equipment. So there is a substantial financial relationship between us. And I don't know why it wouldn't be comforting to you and comforting to all of us to see that your entire operation is solid, not just the donation that we make every year.
Did I also hear you say you don't want to pay for it out of your funds, you want us to pay for it? Or
That,
is it-
done about, I'm somewhere between
so
6
that
or 8
would
years ago.
minimize the-
6 or 8 years ago, we had a firm come in, and they told us, and this is, now, I did see what the charges are on this document, but they wanted somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 to do an initial audit. That's 5 or 6 fundraisers,
Right.
okay? So if we are going to do a fundraiser to support the operation, which is, if you look at it, we got two sides of the house. We've got the administrative side, we've got the operations side. But they both have to support each other. So if we're gonna have to go out and have our members do a fundraiser to do an audit, and at those,
What's the matter?
his phone's ringing.
I guess that's my phone,
Oh.
or is it the house? I apologize. I thought
Mr.
I
Redding.
silenced
Mr. Redding.
Yeah.
I think hearing that, I wouldn't mind increasing our contribution to cover that.
Well,
As
I
a
think
taxpayer.
Yeah, that was what was the.
That's what was
My
proposed.
apologies.
that was
Well, I thought
absolutely,
he's saying, well,
no,
No, we
no,
were
I
gonna
thought
pay
that's his
for it.
concern now.
No.
yeah, this part of your report too, so come on up.
First of all, it's already written that the cost of the audit would be part of their operating expenses, which would be the donation from the borough. So when they would come in at budget time, that would be a budgeted line item as part of the contribution that the borough is making. So it's not money that they have to come up with.
But I was, to Scott's question, he was asking heretofore, not with this particular one. And that's
Well,
why
we're paying for that
that's why
one,
we
but-
haven't done it in the past. That was my
Right.
point.
Okay.
Right.
It is to be planned in the operating expenses as it should be, as part of the operating expenses. Two, this isn't a borough audit. It is a Middletown Volunteer Fire Department audit. And it's not, yes, will it be public? Yes, just like our audits are public, but it is not a borough audit. It is for the fire department, so that an auditor can do all of those things and make all of those recommendations that he was asking about in the beginning. What's a procurement policy they should have? How should they be processing invoices? How many, just like we have recommended processes, an auditor can help them through that process. So I don't want people to think that it's the borough requesting. It is something that was recommended because of discussions that occurred in previous council meetings.
So that brings a very big point that I wanted to raise. This is not a borough audit, and the borough is not making the fire department audit anything. If the fire department wants to audit just the borough funds, that's your decision. If the fire department wants to audit globally, that's your decision. But
I don't
hold
know.
on,
Okay.
one second here.
Okay.
But one of the consequences is, if the fire department as an organization decides they don't want to audit anything, or they want to audit this or they want to audit that, when you come back to this council for the next budget season, there may be counselors that sit at this table that say, I don't have enough data to vote on X, Y, and Z, and there may be issues with future funding. So that is, I think, kind of where everybody's at. I'm not telling you to get, if you want to audit whatever you want to audit, just realize that, counselors, may need data to help make their voting decision. And that's a
Yeah.
consequence.
Yeah, I think it was more
point.
of
Sorry.
thought,
Good- no, good
Chief was
point.
asking, what would you guys want to see? Obviously, the borough can't make the fire department do anything, and the fire department can't make the borough give any money. I mean, they're the two starting absolute. One of the other things too, that the audits, the fact that an auditor looks at things doesn't make those things public. So things are either public or they're not. So, you know, if somebody made a donation, if that's not something you have to report on the 990 or something like that and publish, you know, the IRS, that doesn't mean because the auditor checks those things that suddenly you know, it's not like right to know. It's not like our, you know, our documents here that we have that are subject to right to know.
I think what maybe I'm a little confused on, what exactly are we trying to get at with all of this? Is it knowing what they're spending their funds on that the borough is contributing, or I'm honestly
That, and
at
I
this
think
point,
in
I'm not really
addition,
sure, because
Jim has said, and it's nice to hear, Jim, that your time with Sally you feel was well spent and productive, but in that is not a kind, we cannot keep continuing to offer borough staff time to guide the fire department in how you are operating your finances, but that's what an auditor would do. They would help with policies and procedures. So it's not meant to judge, hey, how good are you at QuickBook? It's let's help you as a more complicated entity than you were 20 years ago to make sure that you're solvent and solid. That's all that is meant to do.
Any other questions?
sorry, I'm not done.
I believe the chief just joined us.
My other, I'm not done yet, sorry. My
No,
other
no, take-
question is, so how many years has the fire company been receiving this money? 10 now, almost 10?
We've been getting borough contributions since the late 1800s in varying degrees.
Okay.
They bought apparatus. We had contracts where the borough paid 60%, we paid 40%. Back in, I guess, the late 80s, there was a fire tax that was applied to the tax bill that went into, a portion of it went to the sinking fund, a portion went to O&M. There's been all kinds of formulas. But the borough and the fire companies have been, supported by the boroughs since day one.
Right, and since day one up until,
Thank you for that history, that's not.
but in terms of the audit, Jim, since day one, and those things were happening, fire personnel probably didn't really always see it or know it and be intimately involved in it. But up from day one up until 2013, 14, those funds were being audited that were going to the fire department,
Okay, I guess
But-
maybe my better question is,
right?
so it's
I-
2013.
You are exactly right, but
when
the
you
the individual companies were not being audited.
Right. The
Okay,
borough funds were being audited.
yes.
And that's, not to step in, that just came from our company meeting. The company meeting, because we have our meeting and had to make a motion as to what we discussed at last meeting, the company has agreed, the motion was passed to audit budget money. We have two separate bank accounts, and the audit has been granted for the budget account, not the general account. Just like what you were just saying, the budget money has always been audited, we want to get back onto that. But the individual three departments prior to the merger in 2004, their general bank accounts for each department was never audited. That's what we did tonight.
Right.
So the operating expenses, which is what the borough of Middletown has covered for late 1800s, that's still, we're good with that.
Right.
So wait, the two things though. So one is, and it is under the borough code, and that is what you're saying, to kind of look back. We put money in and you account for where it went.
Correct.
Now that, though, doesn't ever support an increase, because then you're stepping outside of that, and then you gotta show the global picture. So if you're talking about, you know, they're two different things. Yes, that covers that piece.
We can show a
What do you do
transfer.
though when it's, we think we need 70,000 more from our unaudited books?
When you show a
Mhm.
transfer though from general fund to the budget account to cover expenses, that's going to show you how much we had to move over as a deficit, right or wrong.
Well, but then you have to audit those deficit monies.
And I thought the whole purpose of
Right.
the audit was to audit the taxpayer money, which was discussed, and we're open to that. I'm not open to showing everything.
Showing things that you need more money. You're not open to that part.
To showing that we need more money? No, we have money in our general fund, and we're not saying that we don't have money in the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had said, going into this last year, if we kept on the same track of 150,000, and we already agreed that we need 175, how many years till I run out of what's in my general fund? That's what I said. I wasn't saying we were in dire strait that we needed this funding right this minute. I'm saying we were going to go down. We were going to deplete our general fund and not have anything left in our general fund and solely rely on budget money.
So Kenny, the general fund, the purpose is more like a
General fund.
savings
purpose
account for things
is
that
a
are out?
savings account, the money we collect when we just did our pie sale, during our apple pies, cherry pies, the pie sale, the gun raffle, things like that. That goes into the general fund.
So how do
That's-
you use it then? For one-off things? Like,
Basically, if it's non-operational,
right,
that's what pays for that.
Yeah.
So like,
Decide
tonight
to-
they made a motion.
decide to buy some air packs or something?
No, not air packs. Air packs is fireman's relief.
Okay.
That's not coming out of general fund. So tonight, the Livens, the bed covers, the waterproof bed covers for the mattresses, they said, hey, they're getting pretty strung out, it's time to get new ones. That's $130. They made a motion to spend $130 on 10 brand new covers to cover the 10 beds upstairs in the living quarters.
Right.
That's going to get paid out of general fund. Things like that, that's going to get paid out of general
It's your
fund.
non-routine expenses
No.
when you need
And
something.
that's it, and that's our, not, I don't wanna say this the wrong way by saying a nest egg, but that's for us to be able to cover expenses, to pay for stuff like that, and traditionally speaking, and going off of what you had said at the last meeting, the taxpayer money, that's where it's kept separate. Taxpayer money is in budget account, general fund money is what we go out there and collect with our mailers, our mailer that we send out, our pie sale, we'll be doing, good plug here, where's the microphone? Chicken corn soup on voting day, things like that. So we'll be doing that kind of thing. That's
Mhm.
where that money's going.
Do you move money from your borough funded account to the general funded account?
Budget money never gets moved to general.
Okay, so you're never like taking, oh, we need 20 grand and we bring it over.
No. As far as I know.
In the past, if the quarterly contribution exceeded what was in the till, we would transfer money from the general fund over to pay those bills and then transfer an equal amount back.
To replenish what we took out.
Mm.
If we went through the 37.5 prior to the next check coming, we would move from general fund, pay what needed paid so the contractors weren't knocking on the door. Then when the 37.5 check came back from you guys,
Put it
we
back.
would reimburse it.
So I have a question. You have these
Mhm.
two bank accounts. Say you get a bill to work on a truck. So you got to take a truck in and it's $5,000. Do you write a check out of the borough account or do you write a check out of the general fund?
Out of the borough account.
Borough account.
That's operations and maintenance. And at
So what are,
At one of the presentations that we gave late last year, we listed every every, like, fuel, maintenance, building maintenance, insurance, workman's compensation. That was all listed.
and I don't, and I know
And I
very,
don't expect you to recall that, but that's all listed individually. That's how we, work these reports.
I have one question. I'm trying to figure this out. Your opinion, your operations, like, would you say 90% of the time you're writing checks out of the borough account, or out of, like, buying bed sheets or buying sheets for this stuff is like a one-off. So I would imagine if you're buying fuel, buying air packs, buying equipment, you're constantly writing money. I would see more checks coming out of the borough checking account than the general checking account.
Yes, that's.
Correct?
Yes. I can't give you a percentage.
I just didn't know if it was like, oh, we're
That's true.
80% of the time writing checks over here. And
Yes.
just trying to get a better understanding. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And then, did I hear you say, like, say, June 20th, before, right before the end of the quarter, you might move money from the general fund to the operating account?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, with that happening, I'd have to say I 100% agree with Jim that if it was me, if I was running the organization, I would want the entire thing audited. Again, that's if I was in your shoes.
My question is, I
I
guess,
would
what's the big pushback from you guys saying we're not getting everything audited? What's the big reason? Because
Well,
it seems like a good.
Up until tonight, the big reason was cost, as
Gotcha.
I said. You can't expect members to go out and raise money to pay auditors.
Now,
Wait, I thought we just said that.
Yeah, no.
We would pay for
We said we
Right.
would cover that.
Before tonight.
No, we said that at the
We
last.
said that previously.
Yeah, before.
We said that last meeting.
Yes.
now, another thing is if the borough and the fire department need to work together to make these installments greater so that you're not doing this, then we should sit down and figure out how we do that. Like, you shouldn't have to, like, it should be worked out and budgeted that, if you get an installment of 50 grand, you're going to be able to utilize that, 40 of it and still have.
The borough does that with a lot of accounts because it's a cash flow thing.
No.
We don't always get all of our tax money right away, so generally that's how things happen even on the borough side.
Exactly.
Well,
and
we're-
that's where we're at, that's all
We
we're saying
reimburse
is we're showing that we made a deposit into the fund of,
No.
let's just say a round number of $5,000 to cover some bills. Out of the general fund, over to budget. And then you see another journal entry in our QuickBooks that says, we took
Yeah.
5,000 from the budget and put it back in the general.
I understand. How many, refresh my memory, how many contributions do we make? Do we quarterly, we make 4 contributions?
Quarterly.
So what I'm saying is it 4 equal installments? And what I'm saying is, maybe we do the first 3 heavier and the last one a little lighter, so that you're not forced to have to do that. Maybe we come up with that calculation and say, instead of doing 40, 40, 40, 40, we, break it up.
The biggest things, our general, or our budget, we just went over it tonight at the company meeting. Unexplained expenses, I just paid $3,000 out of the budget for an apparatus repair.
You're going to obviously you're going to have.
I don't know when that
You
kind
can't
of thing is going to
anticipate.
happen with a vehicle like that.
And I get that. We all get unexpected
And-
expenses.
To go one step further, you had said about what's holding us up from doing the general is, like I walked into the meeting, the general funds have never been audited by the borough, since Jim was a junior, since Jim was a Sparky. That is what we work to build up, to be able to do things, to have our banquet, to do things like that. You guys receive a stipend. Does that allow me to see your personal finances? No. So why are you seeing mine?
You're not coming and asking me for money.
Am I asking?
But the request for money was based on actual numbers that we can provide. Scott has them in front of him. Those numbers, they're hard numbers. We have invoices for those numbers.
I
Right.
think that one of the things you guys are saying, and I kind of get this, is your membership is freaked out about this. Because
They don't
I
want
think
to
we
know
all
what.
appreciate,
In 2012,
yeah.
we were told, you're your own entity now. And
Yeah.
kind of kicked to the curb.
Well, I
So-
also get that
They don't
volunteer
want to open up.
firefighters should have pretty serious social events.
And
And I think that's part of the culture, and I think we respect that. That's probably what they're.
Legislation in 2017, Governor Wolf passed it, that audit is done on the contributions. So the contribution would be the 150 to 175,000, not the entire general fund. It's says contributions, taxpayer contributions.
Yeah, that's in the borough code also, that you have to account for all the monies you have. What I'm saying, though, it's a whole different script, though, when you come in and say, we're having financial troubles, we need more, and then it's,
And
you
it
know,
wasn't.
the only world we know
So,
about is
and let's
what
back
you
up.
did spend.
I wanna go back to last year, 2022, when I came in front of the council. I didn't say we were having financial troubles to the point we were gonna be closing doors. I was saying, if we keep on this track, looking at the vision down the road, that there was going to come some financial hardships of the fire department. By talking and getting to this point, we've gotten that alleviated, that we're not having to deplete general fund money for these one-offs and everything like that, just to have our budget taken care of. We've conformed to everything. We've brought everything forth. The only thing you're gonna see is general membership of the Middletown Volunteer Fire Department has said, we're not ready to do anything with the general fund. They said tonight, in a motion, that they were 100% on board for the budget. We'll open everything up. But you can see where the warm and fuzzies aren't there yet.
So question, since this is not a borough audit, when the audit is done by the, outside party, then the borough's not really privy to that information if they don't want to release it, correct?
Well, I tried to read this, and this gentleman can probably interpret it better than me, but I get the impression that this is the borough's audit because they're paying for it.
We're paying for it, so we have to sign the engagement letter.
Well, I'm
But
talking
maybe-
about the boilerplate that's in here.
Yeah.
Okay?
And you're right, it is a boilerplate.
Okay, so again,
So,
my
I mean-
question is, okay, the borough's paying for it, but it's not a borough audit, it's done by an outside party. It belongs to the firehouse, correct? So then they get their audit of whatever books they decide, and they never have to release that to the borough.
They don't unless they want money, and if this
So
council.
if we hold them hostage by saying,
Yes.
you give us the audit or we're not giving you
Yeah.
any more money. I have a problem with that, and that's not right, that's not the way it should be. Not only that, but we give money to them, who else do we give money to as the borough? Who else do we contribute to? The library? Who else?
That's it.
We don't give, what?
No, that's a contract. Yeah, that's like a contractor.
I think you're looking at this as a slight or that we don't trust you, which isn't the case at all. Like if someone was coming to me asking me for an increase of funds for any reason, I'm gonna say, okay, let me see everything in front of me right now, and I'll make a decision based on the whole picture. Like, I certainly would, like, I don't have any issue giving increased funds to you at all.
So,
But it would make me question a little bit if I'm just seeing, okay, I'm just seeing a part of the picture. There's this other picture here. I'm not seeing all of it. So how do I make the best decision with just part of the information? And I'm speaking directly to not what we're giving you now, but for any increases then in the future. I trust
Shouldn't-
But
you.
see, what
Shouldn't the-
difference does the increase make though? That, I'm curious about that.
What difference is the increase?
If you wouldn't question the original amount we gave them, why do you want to see everything? Because they're asking for more money if they're showing why they need more money
in a budget.
in a budget.
Well, it's actually a good thing that this body did question because you came in asking for 70, and if we wouldn't have questioned, we would have just handed over an additional
No, I don't, I'm not
$70,000 of
disagreeing with that.
taxpayer
but-
money.
Now, also,
Asking to
let's
So-
go back before.
Good thing we
See,
did.
This is where we're gonna go back to that, to the 70. We also projected water, because everybody knows that we're going to come off of water. I said that who's gonna cover hydrant maintenance, so I projected who's going to cover hydrant rental in the borough. That was all things we discussed in October when I came in front of you guys. That's why the amount that I had asked for before was greater, at I think it was 220 or something like that, because I was going to be paying water, I was going to be paying, I didn't know what year all that was going to be stopping, which I think, isn't it close?
25.
Mr. Conti?
25.
Okay.
25.
Those are all projections that I had no idea when or what was going to happen, who's going to cover hydrants. So that's why I went with a higher number. We started to sit down, we started to work up numbers, and we came up with a concrete number, and a comfortable 175 that you guys agreed to. That's how that story went. Just to clear the air.
Mhm.
But still, going back to that, because I have an issue with that. If we would have just wrote the check for 70 grand, you would have additional funds sitting in your
Budget account.
the borough checking account that would just be sitting there that would be,
And that's one of the reasons why I'm suggesting that we put together a working group. Are you going to penalize Public Works because they didn't spend the money for snow removal this year? No, it's gonna go back into the budget, correct? Or just stay in, so if we would have a very good maintenance year and we come up $20,000 that we didn't spend after we reconcile the books for the year, we put it in the sinking fund. I mean, and that's the kind of information that I feel that a working group needs to put together. So again, going forward, we have this written down where it's not just institutional knowledge.
and when you say working group, you're referencing an audit?
No,
Or-
I'm members.
Oh,
People
okay.
and a group of counselors
okay.
that can sit in a room and hash things out and know where each other stand, that we can go back to our organization, you guys can go back to the rest of the council, and we can work together harmoniously, if you will.
Well, I think from what you told us earlier, I mean, this board thought it was beneficial to have an audit. I think it is, just like Mr. Stites said, any business, it's protection for the business and the officers of the business to have an audit, not just transparency, but it's protection. So you've told us tonight, the department's willing to have an audit on the monies that come over from the borough. Why wouldn't we start there? And you can have those other
Let us
talks.
get the warm and fuzzies first, like,
I mean,
honestly, that's all they're saying.
And Mr. Reddinger, with regards to Jim's, working group, I think we hired Public Safety Director Rose to be a
Liaison.
Yeah. So, I mean, even if that's just the starting point, and I know his hands are, very busy with the police department.
We used to have. We had, I was gonna say, don't we still have a public safety committee? We used to.
No, we don't have that anymore.
No, they don't want one.
Oh, that's right, yes,
But-
I'm sorry, it is. We do have Ellen, you're right. It's Ellen.
That proposal in front of you from the auditor, is there a price tag to that?
Well, it's very open-ended.
Good.
It's estimated for the first year to be between, $8,000 to $10,000, and then between 5 to 6 for, following.
I'll be,
Now, if they're only doing it on a portion, that number may change, but it is part of the contribution.
And what's the
No,
other thing
s-
that we could do in between audit years? If we didn't do an audit every year, what's that? It's a C word.
Compilation.
Compilation, that's the word I'm looking for.
Sally, so this, well, you're saying this is part of the contribution. This is not part of the contribution this year because we're paying for
We're
it.
paying for it this year out of
So,
Placeholder.
the
Out of the
placeholder.
okay.
And then.
So what I would suggest is, I don't want to pay for their audit. What I'm suggesting is let them do their own audit. I would vote tonight to give them 10 grand. And I'll give you an extra $10,000, do what you want.
It's already in there.
I'm sorry.
I guess what I'm getting at is, I don't really want the borough to engage with anybody and pay for any audit. I would much rather say, Mr. Fire Department, here's 10 grand extra. Whatever.
Okay. And so the engagement letter would go.
Let
back.
them do it. Let them hire their own auditors. And you know what? If we give them an extra 10 grand and they don't get an audit and they come back here and they want more money, they may not have the votes to even.
Well, and let's back up before we go.
So I'm okay with paying for it. I just would rather them do it.
Before we go saying stuff like that,
Sorry.
you're talking about the fire department. We risk our lives to run into burning buildings for free. We're not out to screw anyone.
And I completely get that. I would rather keep it cleaner. Like, I want to make sure the fire department has the necessary funds to do this audit. I would just much rather give it in a contribution and let you engage and do it on your own. That way it is truly yours. It is 100% yours.
Hmm.
Ian, you know, I trust in you guys and the members that I know, but, I mean, there are several fire departments in this county that have had financial problems.
Absolutely.
And if I was in your shoes, I would want it done.
By all means, like I had said at the
I
last
mean,
meeting,
like I
we
said-
wanted audits. But where am I gonna come up with funding for an audit when I came asking for funding to put gas in the rigs?
I think we're
And
all
things like
willing to
that.
pay for
So-
it.
Everybody's here willing to,
Everybody said they'd pay for the audit.
Yeah,
everybody
and-
said they
and-
pay for the audit.
We'll,
It,
we'll,
and
we'll do whatever, we'll get it done. We'll probably use the same company. It doesn't matter, we'll get it done. That way there's an audit on the books. We're good with all of that.
Well,
But
if you're doing a limited audit, it doesn't protect all you guys because you're intentionally putting blinders on to the rest of your organization. So if you're using it as a tool to make sure you're systemically in line, the way you're keeping your books, and you're double checking that there isn't anything bleeding out, that won't help because, you know, you're,
I got you.
Hmm.
But back to one other thing though that Jim brought up. He brought up about a panel or a group of individuals from council, public safety director, fire department, however we wanna do this.
Mm-hmm.
They also made a motion tonight to go ahead and do that as well. They wanna work together.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had that working relationship in years. This
We
is the
haven't?
next stepping stone and we're trying.
we haven't
What
had
have
a-
we disagreed on
What's that?
in years? What have we butted heads with over the last 7 years?
No, we haven't been close.
Close.
Like we were. No, I'm just saying, like, an actual sit down to talk about that. Like, it was unbeknownst to me when, in 2001, when it was passed for the sinking fund, 10% of the sinking fund. I think Mr. Sykes was one of the motions on that. I didn't know that it was up to a limit of only 50,000 into the sinking fund. Because it's not written that way. It's not written that way in the meeting minutes. So, last year, when we got the 50,000, I was like, well, wait a minute, the surplus was more than that. Why didn't, those kind of things, I didn't know.
Right. Right.
Like, I'm just trying to figure out a way for us all to be able to talk, that we don't have to tie up.
Then we should probably
council.
have a liaison that attends your meetings and also attends these. That's the only way we're going to, you know,
But you can't.
get over that hurdle.
Mr. Sykes?
Uh-huh.
I recommend the man that we hired to do that originally,
I'll sit with.
or not you, yeah, not you, Public Safety Director,
I
right?
can sit- we can
I
sit
mean,
with-
that's in his, job
Job
description, correct?
description.
it is.
I mean, there's no other person to do it other than him. I mean,
No.
you know, I don't think Ken should do it. I mean, Dan and his, staff constantly, you know, they show up at your scenes, they work hand in hand with you guys.
we can
So
do
he
that.
should be, in my opinion, he should be the guy that is the starting point.
That'll work.
Yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
body put a
Good point,
liaison in
Scott.
place, you know,
Good
a couple
point.
years ago.
That'll work.
Sorry, Dan, if we're recommending more work for you.
I'll bring the coffee. Or-
So, I guess where we're taking this is, the borough, I believe, has extremely expressed their recommendations. It is your audit, your organization, do with it as you will. As far as paying for your audit, I definitely want to make sure you have the funds to do it. I would suggest that we just make a one-time contribution. That would be my recommendation, and
Well,
let.
remember, you do at the end of the year under the borough code have to account for where the money went, so I wouldn't,
I was gonna say,
Just
why don't we
have
just
a
get it
blanket
done
amount.
and then give the invoice,
yeah,
the receipt.
I think that'd be
and whatnot.
cleaner.
Or if you
Mm.
have it done, pay for it, and then we make a contribution, we increase the last year's contribution, or some way that it pays for it, but you're paying for it, but you're being reimbursed.
The only other
Mhm.
thing that we talked about at the finances tonight, and Jim might have covered it, I'm not sure. At the last meeting I was at, that I attended, it was the additional 25,000. I thought it was getting broken. We were gonna get double payments on the second quarter check. Our second quarter check came, it was only the original amount. We have not gotten the two additional payments yet.
But Sally, did you do two checks or one big check?
I think we did 2 checks.
Okay, so double check to see if you got two. Please follow up with Sally on that. I mean, that's,
Okay.
Because that was the understanding.
Yeah, I thought it was.
But it was gonna be
payments on
two
the second
separate,
quarter plus the second quarter check,
right,
and the second quarter check was just the original amount.
but, yeah,
well, it
was
might
gonna
be
be
two
two.
original amounts in two checks.
Yeah.
I'll check it and let you know.
Okay.
okay.
And, yes, and just for the understanding, I know you, thank you guys very much for your time. I know
Appreciate you guys coming.
I know the fire department, it sounds like you've already spoke at your meeting and you're, voting to do an audit of, just the borough books. That's fine. Just keep in mind that, these council members sit at this table to make decisions.
So when it was
What,
somebody else's audit, that was what we were concerned about as far as opening up all of our stuff. If all these copies were going everywhere, like, we were like, no, we're not involved. Now going back to our meeting and saying, we're doing the audit, we're probably gonna do the entire thing.
no, and what I'm getting at is,
I hear it, yeah.
you
See
may,
what I'm saying?
Yep, I do.
That's where
No,
the fire
that's-
department was.
yeah.
If it's our audit, fine, but this letter of agreement has one person's name for a signer, and it ain't fire chief or the president. So that's what concerned everybody.
I
I
see.
can understand.
and I actually brought this
That's
up.
why, when you said, and I was trying to let it go, what's the reservation? It wasn't us doing this audit,
I
it's you
understand.
guys.
We all
Makes
get
sense.
copies and
Yeah.
who knows where they go.
Yeah.
That's why I said.
So then you would get your whole operation looked at, but you own the audit. We would then only see the part that's, the budget portion because it relates to
You guys.
taxpayers.
And that's where we were at. That's the reservation we had with the way this was.
Okay. Good to clear it up. Because to Jim's point, to only do half doesn't give you the benefit of the whole picture. Yeah.
And this first year is kind of weird because next year you're going to bake this into your operating expenses. There's going to be none of this. You're just going to be getting your own audit. It's going to be figured in, factored in. There would be no borough engagement letter. And
Right,
Yes.
right.
it was just because the way we were structuring this.
Yeah, like, when we looked at it in the last page, it only had Mr. Kleinpeter. It's like, well, wait a minute. It's on our books, but it's your audit. This don't seem right. Now it's going to be our audit. And then,
So what are we doing here? Are we asking, giving them the contact information for Brown Schultz so they can
actually,
send them an engagement letter for this?
we have a copy
Right on that.
of.
If you need any information in regards to that, please reach out to Ken or Sally to get that information to you. And best of luck with your audit. Best of luck with the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And-
really, any auditor.
Well,
You can
Gotta
use
be
anybody you want.
For my own
Certified.
business, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep. You
Oh,
can use anybody you want, and after it's done, please let us know what it is, and
Okay.
Please bring a receipt.
Will do.
make sure the receipt's audited.
Will do.
Thanks, guys.
thank you both.
All right, we're still kind of in finance, so why don't we?
We had
We were back on,
we had asked for a motion.
Oh yeah, we have
Yeah,
a motion for number 6.
2023-1405, which is amending Chapter 23, repealing provisions providing for oversight of the funds and spending of the fire department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Seitz, second by Councilor Lister. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Sally, do you wanna finish your finance?
I was going to say it was 7:31.
Okay.
Well, we have a guest here too
Yeah, maybe
for,
we'll
Okay. Yep.
We're,
Agenda item.
I think he's on Sally's report.
number
Hold
7.
Number 9 up.
Well, we amended the agenda that day.
It's okay. It's all right. We got rid of 14. We can do 13 then. Agenda item number 7.
So I have a motion to approve the plan from Verizon replacing an underground diesel storage tank with an above-ground storage tank at 135 West Main Street, conditional upon meeting the conditions listed by the borough engineer, HRG, and the planning commission conditions to maintain and replace shrubs as needed in the event they are damaged, and notification to the fire department of the tank replacement and to provide them with the site plan.
Couple questions. How big is this tank? How many gallons? So it's underground and they want to bring it above ground.
Same location, yep.
Oh. Well, they don't have much of a choice then, I guess. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Seitz, second by Counselor Lister. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Agenda item number 8.
Motion to direct Council President to sign the Burke One Statement of Work and Master Services Agreement to provide a tax database for Middletown Borough. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Seitz, second by Counselor Lister. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Questions, questions,
Like, wait, actually,
questions or
can you read
comments?
the motion again? I'm sorry, I didn't.
To
clearly-
direct the Council President to sign the Burke One Statement of Work and Master Services Agreement, which is in your packet, for them to provide us or to build a database for us, for a tax database for us.
Mm-hmm.
What do we what do we currently have?
We used to rely on the school district, and that's, if you
Oh, that's-
recall, getting the children getting tax bills and so forth, we didn't feel like they were keeping it up to date like they should, and, for us, because they're on a different system now. So we want to build this, database one time that we can, Sally, we can manage every year then.
Yeah, so how it was that the school district by law is required to collect census data and supply us with that information for our tax billings. We were finding a lot of errors and, and we manually have to make changes. So if somebody doesn't pay their taxes when they're supposed to, we get thousands of these that we have to manually enter to send to Keystone to, collect delinquents. And so that's one piece of it. The second piece of it is there was no confidence in us having a clean tax census. So I went to the school district, talked to them. We now, with every opening of an account, we require a census form to be completed. So that first of all, we know not only the person who is opening the account, but anyone that lives at that residence. So we were missing those people previously. So that's to clean it up. It's to remove manual, and it's also for efficiency and correctness, because I'm working off an Excel sheet that, you know, you make errors. In a database, the information's there, you're just going in and you're clicking. When the person's 65, they're exonerated from occupational. If they move out of the borough, you click moved out and put the address where they're moving to. And all of these reports can be generated for us to share information with Keystone.
Bless you.
When it comes to collecting delinquents. It's just a cleaner way of doing it, and it literally was taking me weeks,
And
2 or 3 times a year.
And we apologize that this took so long to get
Yeah.
this agreement to you. This is something we brought up last year at a workshop. Kind of got council's approval to put the money in the budget for it, but it's just been so long coming that, now we're revisiting this many months later, and it's like, what is this thing?
So, right now, yearly, it's $2,400 subscription per year once it's
Mhm.
implemented or
Right.
in place.
I have a motion by Counselor Seitz, a second by Counselor Lister. Any other questions or discussions for Sally or Ken? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 9.
Okay, we have with us tonight, in case there are any questions, some of you folks had missed the recent discussions about obtaining funds for the replacement of our Spruce Street substation. And, we have that design work done. We're getting really close to the point where we need to, or we can move forward with making some purchases and bidding the project. So our next step is to retain a financial advisor, and we have Zach Willard with us from PFM, if anybody would have any questions. But the document is in your packet here, addressed to Council President Redinger. I'll read the motion, and then maybe we'll see if there's a first and second, unless you want to have any questions now. But let me read the motion. Do I have a motion to direct Council President to sign the engagement letter with PFM Financial Advisors for financial advisement in securing funding for the replacement of the Spruce Street Electric Substation?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice President Willenbecker, second by Councilor Lister. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries.
Zach's in the back of the room. I'll just introduce him because
Basically, we'll see more of you. We'll be back as we develop a financing plan, and we'll kind of walk through the options and execute.
Isn't this the firm that former Council President Ben worked for? PFM?
I don't know if he's still there or not, but
No,
he used to work
isn't
for
this the
PFM.
firm that he used to work for?
Correct.
I thought it
We're
rang a
using
bell.
PFM. We are currently engaged with them in our investments of our two pensions and our OPEB funds, and we've been engaged with them for quite some time.
I thought so, yeah.
This is just an extra work agreement for looking for some money for us.
Oh, that sounds good. We're happy to help.
Excellent, thank you
All right.
Thank
very
you.
much.
They're a major player.
Yeah, Ben Kappenstein, actually. He may still work for them, I don't know. Agenda item number 10. Mr. Klein Peter.
Okay, first item there on my report is HRG has provided us a cost for bidding and construction oversight for the demolition of what was the former Vastines building there at 231 Oak Hill Drive. And I'm asking if we can add that to the next business meeting agenda for a vote. Second item there is we have a retainer agreement from HRG in the amount of $25,000 to prepare a master site plan for the community pool at 400 South Union Street. I don't know if we can add that to the agenda for our business meeting. Some of you, if you don't recall, this is what we would need to obtain if we were going to go for grant money through DCNR to change the use of that to some other use. We would have to have a study done first to look at all the options and have public hearings about the site and the pool. Informational, the grant application for Overdeer Park was received by DCNR. Provided some old, Chief Whitebread provided us some old intermunicipal agreements on talking about the fire service between Royalton and Middletown for fire service that Jim's reviewing, and at some point he'll get back to us here.
Yeah,
I
they're
guess with
very
some
old.
recommendations.
And I think, obviously we'll need an intergovernmental cooperative agreement with them.
But a first step, I think, will be, after you've reviewed them, to maybe draft a letter for us that maybe
Right.
council can send to their council saying, here's where we're at, we have this old
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah, we have an odd
Okay.
mix. Yeah, they have a fire tax and we don't, and it looked like per capita that we were bearing, what,
The lion's
1,
share
3 to 1, yeah,
Per capita.
per capita, we're probably, paying 3 to 4 times as much as what Royalton citizens are for, the same coverage.
Okay, and then my next item, Patty, I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name. She's here from the Middletown Swim Club. If you want to come forward.
Oh, yeah.
She is interested in gaining a letter of support from the borough, and I'll let you give them any details about what you're trying to do. You're trying to go for a gaming grant, correct?
Yes, Dauphin County Gaming Advisory Board. What has happened this year, the pool is like 60-some years old, and we need maintenance. So earlier this year, we consulted several pool professionals, and they recommended sandblasting. That was completed on March 17th of this year. The estimate was $35,000, but we saved $7,000 by shoveling out the debris. And now we need to caulk, prime, and paint it. The caulking materials we're estimating at about $2,300, and the paint could possibly be close to $4,000. So the Middletown Swim Club, we operate on a pretty slim budget from the membership dues and the concession stand income minus, cost of the food and staff. We're all volunteer. We work very hard. I have trigger finger from all the sweeping I have done at that pool and painting. We encourage member participation, open monthly meetings, spring cleanup days, raffles, many fundraisers. And we support the community. We give free passes to schools and organizations. Daycare centers come in with their children to swim several mornings each week. The Middletown Dolphin Swim Team practices and holds swim meets there. We also are going to have the 34th annual mini meet, and that's to encourage children 10 and below to swim in swim meets. In 2022, when the Middletown Community Pool was closed, we welcome new members by establishing new member rates and at reduced prices without purchasing a stock membership. Also, we arranged a payment plan that allows lower income families to join without a financial hardship. I think like in March, April, 3 or 4 months ahead, they could, pay in smaller amounts. We're committed to keeping the pool open, and we need help with this sandblasting because, we're having some leaking and we need to deal with this. So we are applying for a grant through the Dauphin County Gaming Advisory Board for $25,000 to help with the cost of sandblasting, caulking, and painting. And we are asking for your sponsorship for this grant, and we request a letter of support. I drafted one. I don't know if you got it.
On the backup.
So, we just want to keep the pool going, and we welcome anyone. We're doing what we can to invite and help lower-income people join the pool.
Question for you. This sandblasting and shoveling and caulking, did you already do this work?
The sandblasting was done March 17th, 2023.
You're not caulked and painted yet?
No.
Your season's like upon us.
Oh, I know.
Well, the grant money won't come till next year.
No, I know. We will have to take out a loan.
Okay.
We have a pool that we can rent you, if you would like. Okay, it was a joke. I'm sorry.
No, but, I mean,
I'm saying if you need a pool, we have one for rent.
but it's not operational.
We can put water in it. We can maybe make that part of the deal.
Oh, it is a lot of work to take care of a pool. I want to tell you. So we will be working. I spent every weekend before COVID, painting, and Mark Sostar, he did all the caulking. We worked hard. And we just want to keep it a viable recreational facility. I mean, we're sorry the community pool is not open, but we want to keep one pool open at least.
Does anybody have any objection to signing this letter? No, I think we'd be happy to.
Thank
I think
We
you should,
Should do a motion.
I think you should do a motion and
Yes.
take a vote because the county's gonna wanna see that our letter backed up.
Well, getting to this, it's not on our agenda, so I was asking if everybody was okay with this to put this.
On the agenda for the next.
Yeah, it's not on because I didn't know.
Well, what I'm getting at is I'm asking this
Yeah.
body, does anybody have any objection? And then
To putting it
if
on.
there's
Putting
not,
on
then
a future agenda.
we can put it on our,
Because we could vote on it in June is what I'm saying. to put
Yeah.
on the agenda.
What's your deadline?
August 1st, I think.
Oh, okay.
Has to be.
June's good enough.
Yeah, I have to go I believe it's before December. We have I have a lot of
Yeah,
material.
I think you have to have your meeting with the county by August 1st and have your preliminary request in, I think. Pretty sure. I just read it today. It's August 1st.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so there's plenty of time. Everybody's in favor of supporting a letter.
Mhm.
Yes.
I'm in favor of it. We will get it on our next business meeting agenda for signing.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll be here in 2 weeks?
Yeah, now, it'll be on a Wednesday because this coming
Oh, that's
workshop
right.
is, I think the primaries, Tuesday, correct? Am I
Yes.
correct, Grace?
May
Yeah, so it'll be May,
Man, that's here quick.
Holy cow.
17th.
so we'll have
We're
it,
gonna vote on it that day?
Yep,
yeah,
he is
17th.
very correct on that.
We'll have it on the agenda.
Do
Excellent.
you want me to leave this with you?
We have one.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yep.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time and your support.
Yep, thank you for all your hard work up there at the pool. We appreciate it. Picked up our slack. Agenda item number 10, or I'm sorry, number 11, codes.
Hello,
Hi, Jason.
just, two to focus on here. Phase three.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 3 of the inoperable vehicle ordinance, we are hopefully getting to our final phase here later this month, but we will be revisiting the first phase to ensure compliance is made. Doing some random driving, as we're doing other things, we are starting to notice more people complying, so that's good news.
Mm-hmm.
Skipping down to our second to last bullet point, Amtrak, and you have pictures that have been
Right.
presented here. Amtrak is not desiring to maintain the pedestrian tunnel at South Catherine along the Carnes parking lot. And we had asked them to wait until we present this to the council before they permanently cement the tunnel. We have been in conversation with the Federal Railroad Administration. Matt and Ken just had a phone conversation with them this afternoon, and we will see what comes out of that, but we wanted to provide this to you. We have also reached out to Representative Mahaffey, who went and saw a PennDOT Railroad third-party representative to also document what was happening. And I met with him a few days ago.
So I guess the kind of feel we'd like to get here at this meeting from you folks is, should Amtrak decide they're going to close it? Because they basically, in response to Jason's request to clean it up from a code standpoint, because I think they did clean it up last year.
They did.
This year, it was like, well, we're just gonna close it, unless you guys wanna start cleaning it, under some kind of long-term agreement with us that you're gonna take care of it. So, I don't know what that long-term agreement would look like, because there is electric down there and lighting and, you know, a long-term maintenance agreement, what happens if the, you know, the steps are in bad shape?
Yeah,
stuff in
they are.
trouble. So, we wanted to find out, you know, what level of interest you folks have in, or if it stays open. We put it on Facebook. I asked Grace to put it out there to see, let people know what Amtrak's thinking about doing, and I haven't gotten any calls from anybody. I think it looks like it was shared 16 times, but we told the FAA today that we wanted, and Amtrak, that we wanted time to talk to you folks to see what you thought about it. Is it going to be missed as it's closed, or you feel really adamant about keeping it open?
Mm-hmm.
To the point that you would be willing to
To
take care
spend
of
money on,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess with that being said, a lot to take in here. I do think it's not a big, but small asset in the sense that it allows access underneath, safe access underneath the railroad track. And do we have any idea of what something like this would cost the borough a year to clean and maintain? Has anybody put any numbers together?
No, it's not so much that, it's a long-term maintenance agreement, I'm sure, because they want to close it. They've seen the steps.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that agreement's gonna be, you fix the steps, you fix the
Right.
concrete, you get rid of the graffiti. It's gonna have a whole number of things, I'm sure. But we won't know that for sure until we say, yeah, we're willing to do it at all costs
Right.
to keep it open.
Okay.
Then you'll see what they want from them. from us, but maybe we could just tell them, what would your agreement look like? Give us a draft and we'll bring it back to council. We could do that.
No, my question is, the steps and the electrical conduit, one-time fix, the maintenance would be, you know, keeping it cleaned, keeping graffiti down. Do we know what impact that would put on the borough to do that? Saying the steps are replaced and the lights are, I mean, it's not a very big funnel here.
I
No,
don't think we do you?
They currently don't have any cameras. That would be something we'd want to invest in as well. That would help deter or at least identify what's happening during those timeframes. I would also assume we'd have 2 public works employees that would have to clean and maintain and monitor, take the trash out on almost a weekly, bi-weekly basis because they get filled up pretty quickly.
And who's emptying the trash now?
Amtrak. Well,
And how-
nobody.
Do
So,
we know how often they do it?
when I call them, and it took months before that to occur. So when I was here in July of last year, that was one of my first things in August to contact Amtrak. Fortunately, I also had Cat/Rabbit involved because they had some things to deal with. So that was a motivational factor for Amtrak to do what they needed to do that summer. Couple months now, I've been on a monthly basis saying it's getting to be that time and have not heard anything from the district manager of Amtrak for this area. And it took me the time to call the Amtrak police to figure out what was going on, and which then prompted this.
So let me ask you this. I think the trash is pretty simple. I don't know if you really need a trash can to walk 20 feet underground. I'm sure you can hold on to your trash and dispose of it.
Yes, that's
Somewhere
what the
else.
proper citizen would do.
But I mean, if you
Yeah.
just by, I mean, I see there's a trash can in this picture. So just eliminate it altogether,
Put it up at the top even.
or put it at the top. Secondly, obviously needs painted. There's a broken electrical conduit here. I would even donate my time and services to fix that. It doesn't look like a massive big deal. But yes, I agree. The light fixtures should be maintained, maybe get some LEDs in there and do like a ring camera system on either end so you can monitor it. But long story short, you paint it, you clean it up, you paint it, you put a camera on each end, you get rid of the trash can. It should be relatively low maintenance. Your biggest item, I think, is your electrical or your steps. I'm not a concrete specialist. It looks like there's.
You're looking at thousands of dollars for that, probably close to.
Can I add one more thing? I'm just thinking ahead. I would imagine a long-term maintenance agreement with somebody like Amtrak and their lawyers would involve. If you're in charge of the maintenance, you have some liability.
Mhm.
You know, if it isn't maintained or somebody falls on the
Right.
steps that aren't maintained
Right.
correctly. So that would be some other arena we might be stepping into with that as well. Might step into the arena of at some point, well, it's not ADA compliant, because it's no way
Mhm.
for the handicap, or you gotta put them in. Those are just some things that, you know, and I don't know, we have to make a decision completely tonight, but I just wanna kind of get
They're good,
a sense
good
from
thoughts, yeah.
the council people that we can report back to them when we get information back from them. Look, you guys really want to keep it open at all costs, or, you know, with that limited liability that might come
Yeah,
from that?
Honestly, I think Amtrak should keep it open because I think this allows safe access around their tracks that they
And-
make money on.
And
So
I don't-
personally, I think Amtrak should keep it open, but if they're not willing to do the work, I'm willing to look at what it would take for us to do it. I'm not saying I want us to do it, I'm saying I'm open to look at what it would take. But I think Amtrak should, I mean, the tracks are their asset, they make money off the tracks. This allows for our residents to have safe passage from one side of their tracks to the other. They should really be doing it.
Do we have any idea, like, how many people actually use that passageway? Like, I mean, that's impossible to give an exact.
Not really to get an idea, but when I'm going through my observations, I notice there's elderly that are going through there, so they don't have to go along Wood Street. I see them now cutting through Wood Street, through Carnes' commissary, through our
Okay.
parking lot. So that's a shortcut for them. but it's mostly for those that are in that region of South Catherine. Because if you're from Southwood or further, you're not really saving any extra time with this tunnel. So
I would imagine. And I would imagine there's a lot of youth that are,
there
coming
are a
from-
lot of youth that use that. That's my second observation.
And we know how youth are. They'll go right across the tracks. They're not going to go down one block and around to make a turn. They'll just go across the track.
There is a fence up along the tracks now.
Oh, is there?
They have
Not the whole way.
Not the whole way.
they have a fence, but it is not a very reliable fence.
See, I think Matt did some research when that was first put in. I think it's like, what, 1920s or 30s? 40s. Back then, before my time, back here were a number of factories on both sides of the tracks. And I can envision there were a lot more traffic back then between the shoe factory and the dress factory and everything. Used to be in this area. So, that's why we were trying to get a sense from maybe the public and you, like,
Yeah, I mean, if
how much is it used, like you said?
if you build that right now, that track,
Yeah.
you wouldn't say, oh, we got to put a tunnel there.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that. I don't think.
There are a lot less trains now than there were in 1940.
I mean, they creep me out. I go down one of them. Like, I don't know if I want to walk down.
Yeah, because see, you had
in general.
you had a freight station.
Scott's.
Jim probably knows what I'm talking about. Where I think people could go and ship their own freight at one time, back in the old days. And if that was there then, it was a place to get from one side of the track to the other.
Mr. Ritter, I was gonna say, I live down that way, so I have noticed that there is more traffic coming down that way and around to Wood Street. And I also noticed one day when I was walking, down here to pick up some food, that there was kids who I'm almost certain would have gone under the underpass, were now running back and forth on Union Street. So if they're even not running on the tracks, they might be running on a busier street. And I'm almost certain that they would have come down Brown and gone down the underpass because they went down that way. And
Our last borough meeting, when I pulled in the parking lot, there was a couple, male and female, that were entering that. And actually, I know this because they stopped me and they were talking to me. They were kind of yelling across the parking lot. But they were, just the last borough meeting, I saw a couple going down there. And they had bags. They were leaving Carnes. They had clear bags in their hands, and they were heading back under.
Well, Matt and I did put pressure on the FAA person this morning that we thought that it was an advantage to those who might be an underserved community and they don't have cars and they may be living the assisted housing on the other side of the street, need to get to the grocery store. We tell them there's a grocery store here. So the response we got from the lady at the FAA was that she understood, yes, and she was making a list and for somebody probably higher up that she's going to report to. But she did make it clear to us that they could not force Amtrak to do anything. So we'll sit tight and see where that goes.
And along that lines, even Amtrak police could not force Amtrak to clean things up. That was also relayed to me by the Amtrak officer.
It's been closed for 2 weeks, and there hasn't been a tremendous amount of uproar that it has been closed. So I guess it really is it, how much of an impact is it currently causing versus what it may take to maintain it and keep it in perpetuity?
It only takes one kid to run across those tracks and have an incident. Only one.
And the reason for the cameras is that when I was down there in these pictures, there was a lot of paraphernalia, and I had a resident that wondered if they were going to keep it closed because he preferred that it be closed, and he lived off of South Catherine, and I thought he'd be here today to kind of share that because he literally saw someone smoking crack and just throwing it on the ground as he exited.
Yeah, that's one of the things nowadays with
place
these
like that,
facilities that give an opportunity to hide from. I mean, I remember when they were doing the new train station, and that was one of the reasons was given to me that PennDOT would not put the pedestrian bridge in. That would be enclosed up there, that they didn't want that. Potential for something to happen that they couldn't be there and monitor it. And So it'd be the same way with a subway like that.
Mm-hmm,
Makes sense.
mm-hmm.
That's why whoever does it, if they do decide to keep it, needs to have good adequate lighting and
Yeah.
cameras on either end.
Right.
And it may be something that we could propose that Amtrak do all the ramping and the initial costs, and then we do the further maintenance. That
Yeah,
could be
that's true.
something we could look into as well.
They definitely have deeper pockets than we do.
It
Well-
would be interesting to know, as Ken suggested, if we take it over, is there any kind of liability that we are taking on that we don't understand right now? And then are we also then required somehow to make it ADA, do we have to put in an elevator? Right now, we're just thinking, sure, we'll keep it clean, but there may be more to it than we understand right now,
Yeah,
so.
you would not have immunity. So, like if the steps were bad or something, defects in real estate is what when we talk about having sovereign immunity from certain kinds of claims, that does not apply, like if you had steps that were dangerous or, a dangerous location and you're not taking reasonably adequate steps to
Oh, yeah.
make it
Huh.
safe.
So we'll see what they come back with, and we'll report back to you
Okay.
as soon as they have that. I think we got a sense that it would be nice to keep it open, but it'd be even nicer to keep it open if we didn't have to put a lot of money in there. But
Yeah.
we'll see what they say, and before we make any decisions, we'll come back to you with more information.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Thank you, Matt.
Excellent. Thank you very much
Anything
for your time.
All right, thank you.
Agenda item number 12.
I have one action item to put on next meeting, and that's ratification of a pole attachment agreement with Everstream Solutions. So that's pretty cut and dry. Then I have 2 points of interest I'd like to point out there. One is we still have not received any qualified applicants for the lineman positions. So there's still 2 open positions. The
Greg,
sec-
may I ask a question about that? When,
Yes.
here in your report, you hired a lineman Class B. Is that because you advertised for a lineman Class B? Or that's who applied and you decided to hire them?
Correct. Out of all the applicants that we received, he seemed to be the closest that I could get in, and get him trained relatively quickly.
Yeah.
He went through the school, Southeast Liveline School, and he has been, doing the live line work, for I think 2.5 years now through, the local union. So he's like 3 notches away from being a first class doing that. And he had always had interest in working in the borough, but I told him I can't bring him as a first class. But I'm sending him to Rubber Glove School this week, or next week, along with the other apprentice. And after that, we're gonna put him on a couple jobs and evaluate.
Great.
So,
Would there be any advantage to, I know you have ads out for lineman A. Would there be any advantage to putting out similar position requests for lineman B?
no, we need the first class lineman now. That was my last, attempt there with him. I was very, very close not to do it because we already had an apprentice. But, with everything that we had going on, I can't keep operating with just 2 guys. I just couldn't do it.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think your biggest hurdle is not being able to fill this position?
I don't know. I mean, we've tried to get their rate up, but, now talking to, at my last conference, I was kind of boasting there to other people about our rate, thinking maybe I could draw some people over, only to find out the one contractor saying, oh, no, we pay $56 an hour. And we put 22% towards they pay all their, benefits, but they put 22% into the retirement. So when you get, linemen, it's a hard thing to come across. And when you have contractors out there filling, their spots, that they never used to pay that. and that's how they're getting them now, so.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's it. I was hoping, even if we could get someone maybe near the end of their cycle of employment, had another good 8 years left or 7 years and wanted to come, it would be an asset to the borough to even help train some of these young guys. But I can't even find one of them.
So when lineman B come on, they still, in order to get to lineman A, have to complete some training programs.
Correct, and some time.
Just
And
paint a,
It's usually
Time
fi-
and
it's a-
service.
Usually a 5-year program.
yep, that's what I
It's
wanted.
a 5-year
Yeah,
program.
4 to 5, and he only has 2.5 in there. So,
Yeah.
I'll rush, but I can't rush too much.
Mhm.
Sir, can we hire a headhunter for him?
What's that?
Can we hire a headhunter for him?
You can, yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
I mean, is that something we should consider?
Yeah,
Right.
why not?
I mean, we're putting it in the magazines that most linemen read
Yeah, but I mean,
for employment.
and that's online too, not just magazines, right?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, but still,
Right.
Well, headhunter
Headhunters.
might look into like another state or something that maybe the magazine doesn't reach possibly.
They'll be making cold calls. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
They'll be making cold
Yeah.
calls, they'll be,
Somebody in West Virginia doesn't mind moving to Pennsylvania.
It's a thought.
Yeah, I like that.
It doesn't cost, I mean.
it'll be a small fee.
Well, Power Lineman does,
yeah,
Power
it's-
Lineman.
I mean, not much. Is what
It's not gonna break any banks.
No.
Yeah. And APPAs throughout the country. So we're in both magazines, American Public Power, which is all the states, and Power Lineman, which is all the states. But I'm open to, I really
Right.
am, I'm open to anything.
Greg, may I ask, if you put out an ad for a lineman B, they know they need training to get to lineman A, is it just standard practice that the employer pays for those training programs?
Yes,
It's standard practice?
correct.
Okay.
And the last time, I was probably the last apprentice that, well, I shouldn't say that, Rob and Tyler came up through the program, and I believe they were almost 6 years before they received their lineman A. Only because it was a little slower here. We had a different group of people that were in charge, that's when,
They were using contractors a lot and they weren't getting.
yeah, there was.
They weren't getting the
weren't getting
hours.
the training back then.
Oh,
Because they were the only two guys, they were third-class linemen at the time. So I
gotcha.
came back, I made them second class, got them the primary training and the schooling, and we took them right to first class, so. And most of the time, it's hard to get pull apprentices because they're stuck in that. I'm surprised we pulled an apprentice from the local union, because normally that's.
Tell 'em to call some buddies. Tell them to call some buddies.
Well, yeah.
Give them a sign-on bonus.
He's telling me the same thing on he just got tired of the traveling, and I'm hoping maybe that's something we can find. He was making a little bit more there, but he was giving up an hour and a half traveling morning and night, so he's making it up on the gas end of it here,
Yeah,
working for us.
yeah.
But so yeah, I mean, we can talk about it.
Can
We'll
we,
talk about it at
can
our
we-
staff meeting.
can we inquire, like maybe have Greg or Ken reach out to Headhunter and see?
I'm okay with the idea.
Like,
Well, there's that group with PMEA, there was a group out of Kutztown, what was that guy's name? I thought he did headhunting for the local electric industry. Was his name Waldblum or?
Oh, he's retired. Yeah, that was a
He
position.
doesn't do that anymore?
Yeah, that was a position. I don't know if he actually did headhunters. He kind of helped municipalities.
Yeah, but they had some group that they formed that you could pay, for headhunting.
I can, I don't know who I would call, but
We
we can
can
try
ask
and check.
Diane. We can ask
Is it at the miners,
We'll ask
the
Diane.
minor center or something like
That's what it was.
that? Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any other questions for Mr. Wilsbach?
The only thing I have left is, I wanted to say that last year, the borough manager requested all us managers to set up some department goals. And this was around budget season. It wasn't necessarily related to budget, but two of my goals that we set for electric was, I wanted to see my crew get OSHA 30 certified and to strengthen our, safety culture through that. And the other one was, to reduce our outages proactively through maintenance projects, and which would in turn reduce future costs to the borough. And I'm proud to say that Middletown Electric received 2 recognitions from American Public Power in the last month. One was for first place in safety for zero time loss.
Excellent.
And the second was, we received recognition for a second year in a row for exceptional electric reliability for 2022. And I'll just give you I know we're running late, but I just wanted to give you a couple quick little things here. We reduced the number of outages this year. I don't have the total. I wanted to look at that and I totally forgot. I was more concerned with these numbers, but we reduced our SAIDI number. SAIDI is the average duration in minutes of an interruption per customer served by the utility during a specific time. So our 2021 SAIDI number was 40.44 minutes. In 2022, we reduced that to 13.12 minutes.
That's phenomenal.
Our safety.
Can't even get in the truck that fast and get off
Yeah.
the side.
Well, you got to understand it.
I know.
It takes the number of people you have and the amount of outages, and it does a formula. Safety is the average instances a customer on the utility system will experience a sustained interruption during a specific time. In 2021, it was 0.79. 2022, it was 0.17 is the average. So last one was AC, which is the percentage of time the distribution system as an average to serve or has the ability to serve its customers during a specific time. So it's the percentage of time you were in power. 2021, it was 99.9923%, and in 2022, it was 99.995% people were in power in this borough. So I'd like to thank council. A lot of it has to do with the support that you've given us over the years. We've done a lot of maintenance in the last 2 years. We've done meters and testing for all commercial, CTs, PTs, and the meters. We've done all our pole testing. We put a new SCADA system in that allows me to go out and get our numbers for our circuits for overloading. It's little things like that, and you're, like I said, you guys really deserve a lot of this credit too.
Congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Agenda item number 13, Sally, we're going to come back to you.
Hello again. We've already covered a couple of things that were on my agenda. I do want to note that the Victims Crime Task Force grant, we finally got the check.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah, for 21 and 22. So, and we should receive 2023 at the end of this year. So that was a welcome surprise. I put together a utility service manual, which basically just outlines our system and has all kinds of procedures, pricing, what the law states. Specifically, the most important part was the landlord-tenant law. And so it just will give staff and residents a better understanding of what that law states and how it impacts what the borough can and cannot do. And in conjunction with that, I developed 2 new disconnect forms, actually 3. And the reason that these were important, first of all, it really was tied hand in hand with the landlord-tenant laws, so that when there's a disconnect, there's a formal signature and date of when that request is being made. We had a couple instances this past year where we had landlords who were actually trying to shut off power to units to get tenants removed. And so it's really important that we have their signature, that there is no tenant in those units when they're disconnecting. If it's a past due situation, that's a different situation. We follow our normal past due processes and procedures. So that was really important. It was reviewed by staff. Ken looked at it, Matt, Greg, I even believe Codes looked at that. And actually, there's also information for residents where they can go for support in paying their utility. And that was developed by Jason. Sorry, I couldn't remember your name there for a second. And it was also passed through Jim's group, their utility expert on that. So I'm looking for that to be added to the 517 agenda.
Good.
I have a question for you on this topic. So we were having issues where landlords were turning off power. So was the power in their name?
Yep.
Yes, the power was in their name, and it was actually a large management company who basically called the borough and said, we want all of these apartments shut off because we told them they had to put it in their name in 30 days. It's in the lease, and they never did it. And we said, we can't. If there are tenants in there, we cannot shut off the power. So it got to be.
Is that a borough thing?
Statute,
No, that's
state
that,
statute.
yeah.
State statute.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have to give them notice, give the tenant notice, give the tenant an opportunity to start their own account.
But we can still turn it off if we go through
Yes.
the steps.
Yes.
The-
So, yeah, well, if, what it did is we had to then get the names of all the tenants, and we had to send them notice that they needed to change the electric over into their name within a certain period of time, or it would be shut off. So we had to go through the legal steps to do that. So we just want to make sure that landlords know that when they walk in and say they want to disconnect, that there has to be a process in place.
But there is pretty much what we're trying to understand this. So if a landlord walks in here tomorrow and wants to turn the power off, they can with going through the certain process. Like it's not going to be tomorrow. It'll be
If there's no tenant in there, they can. shut
I'm
it off.
talking if there is a tenant in
Right.
there. So there's a tenant in the building. Tenant's living there. And the landlord comes in, says, I'd like to turn my power off. It can't be turned off tomorrow, but first we must do X, Y, Z, and then it gets turned off.
There's specific steps that are on the form that the landlord needs to do.
The landlord needs to do it.
Well, and the borough.
And us.
So it
And the borough.
explains, what the
Okay.
process is.
Okay. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I just was trying to figure out, but it can happen.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we also had some smaller landlords that just didn't pay. They had it in the landlord's name, didn't pay, hoping that it would get shut off for default, and that would drive out the tenants. And we have to give notice to the tenant, to give them an opportunity to start a new account. So we make sure that happens.
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to give a lot of credit to Sally for pulling this together. I've been looking for something, and this goes further than what I wanted. This is very comprehensive. She spent a lot of time on this. Like she said, she involved a lot of people and took her time with this, but what this does, I mean, beyond some of the things we just talked about, it puts everything in writing. There were times in certain situations where phone calls were getting things done, and that's just dangerous. You know, who said what, and some people are maybe not always being
Honest.
upfront with you. So this puts a very formal procedure to any scenario, whether it's what a tenant wants to do or what a landlord wants to do in terms of an account,
And
and
a
who has
homeowner.
to react, and the homeowner. So it spells it all out. There's a form for each scenario, and I'm very happy that we have this, and it's a really good job.
Very
that they
nice,
put
thank
together.
you.
Good job,
Thank you,
Sally.
Beth.
The last thing I have is that, we have been talking to Docio, which is a new copier printer provider, and they have, presented, a contract and, what is it? The
Combination of two things. There's a
service
equipment
agreement.
lease,
Mhm.
and we're being emphatic, these are two separate things. We're not bound to do the maintenance and supply. So there's a maintenance supply agreement, and then there's a separate equipment lease. So the equipment lease is for enough money that it triggers the procurement statute, but it happens to be a CoStarz, and it's actually cheaper than the CoStarz amount. So we're good on that as long as we are emphatic that we don't have to enter the maintenance agreement. So there's no argument that somebody packed extra money, artificially lower the equipment price and push it over there. So we today sent language to make sure they're legally disconnected.
Yeah, and so it's all been vetted with Jim, and, they're probably gonna save us about, over the life of a 63-month, about $16,000. So that, agreement, I would like to have, on my agenda for vote for 517 as well.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions for Sally?
I'm trying to see, do you know how much is in the fire sinking fund balance?
Oh, I'm off the top
I
of my
didn't-
head. Well, it should be on the,
That's what I was wondering.
yeah, the cash balance report.
$66,997.
That's it.
Okay,
Excellent. Thank you,
thank
Sally.
you.
Agenda item number 15. Highway?
Okay.
A lot of information on the monthly report there, so I won't dwell down into too much. A couple of the big things are we did start street sweeping this week. We're following the schedule for that. So one of the things I want to do a little bit different this year is we have a few vehicles that haven't ever moved since I've started here. So we're going to post those as no parking on one of the street sweeping schedules, and then hopefully that will get someone to claim ownership of the vehicle and move it. Hopefully it's enough of a hassle that they won't do it again.
Do you mean
Good.
it's literally not moved, or it just hasn't moved for the cleaning?
Oh, no, I've seen ones that haven't moved since I've been here.
Well, that's a long time.
Yes.
It's a long time.
Air and tires.
Inspection sticker, right?
That's what I was gonna say, and they've been inspected and everything?
A lot of it's trailers.
But they've been inspected too.
Some of it's trailers, boat trailers, things like that. It's easier to pay the $10 a year to get the trailer registered and never move it. So I just want to try, because, as an example, a lot of times during the summer, weeds become an issue throughout town. And you can use as an example, the downtown, areas that we sweep, where the street sweeper can get to the curb, there are never any weeds. There are no weeds on Union Street or Emall Street because the street sweeper can scour the gutter every single time. It's the people that don't move their car, and depending on how many cars are on a block, the street sweeper can't get in and around all of them, so they have to miss large portions. It's just something that we'll work ourselves through and do the best we can with it. A couple of other things, we did a lot of work down at the boat landing to do some cleanup down there. We're working with the Fish and Boat Commission on a couple of things down there, putting some signage up for them. I had 2 action items. One would be to resolution approving disposition of the alignment machine. That was part of the Vastine's purchase. And the second action item to be placed on the agenda was, there's a lot of information in here. I thought you guys might want to see pictures of some of the plants that we're proposing. I'd like to have around $3,000, $3,060 to be taken from the town beautification budget line item for plants to redo the quads of the square. They're overgrown, there's not a lot in them right now. Warburton's is a local nursery we've dealt with in the past. They did a little design for us for nothing.
We're just doing over the action
And
items. We're at
included a
2.
bunch of pictures and laid some things out. Couple of the quads, we may keep some of the things that are existing in them. The two on the north side aren't so bad. The two on the south side need a lot of work done to them.
Mhm.
They're massive and they're overgrown and they need a lot of TLC. So I just put the information in there. I know it's already a budgeted item, but just wanted, I know the square is very visual to a lot of people, and just wanted to give you some information in case you had any concerns or questions on that.
I'm sorry, I'm walking in here. I went to the bathroom, excuse me. So we're talking about the pods at the square,
Yes.
the 4 pods. I know we had a master plan on really doing something with that square, and that's, not quite in the budget at the moment, but I think those things are so hideous. I really do. I hate
I
them.
agree.
I absolutely hate them. Is there something else we can talk about which would maybe not be a, $10, $20 million project, but yet maybe get rid of those and make that space a little cleaner and less maintenance?
Well, I mean, just as an example, I don't know if any of you walk up there, but between the pot planters and the concrete, there are pavers installed. Some of the areas are much larger than other ones. A lot of those pavers are a little wonky. They need to be reset. Just for budgetary purposes, I reached out and got a price to put stamped concrete around those and take all those pavers out, so it would be nice and still keep a similar look, but be safer. And that was $33,000 just for that little bit around the outsides.
Damn concrete's not cheap.
Yeah, I know.
The paver, the planters, I agree, they're not appealing to the town. They're backwards, they're not built correctly. We're beyond that point at this. That would be
Right.
a significant investment to do something there. This was kind of, can we make it at least, can we put some color in there, 3-season color to make it pop a little bit, to make it look better than what it does, but I agree, I would be completely in favor of something long-term of doing something different there. This is a relatively small investment that, until we would get to that point, it at least gives us a better appeal.
What would it take to just level them? Let's level them for now. Kind of start over with a blank slate almost, like.
The ones on the north would be easy. The ones on the south, you still have to figure out what you want to do because of the slopes that are there. We'd have to stabilize the slopes with something, both during removal as well as long-term. You'd have to figure out if you want to put grass or what, something has to go back in there. I can't
Right.
just have open earth sit there.
Right.
So there would be a lot of planning and effort to go into that. Could they be ripped out? Absolutely. I mean, that's something that could be done. It would be a project, even to remove them.
Isn't there, once upon a time, wasn't there a master study of some sort for a square
Yes, we did
project,
a
or-
square plan. It was like $12 million bucks.
Call it a master study, there was a sketch done.
It was
Right.
sketched.
Oh, a sketch done.
Yeah.
Okay.
No report, no, just a sketch on paper with color.
And who did it?
HRG.
Oh, okay.
And back then, I think it was like 12 million.
Yeah, we asked them, what something like this to just give us a thumbnail. sketch, and
Oh.
It was millions of dollars, because it involved changing the traffic lights, somebody wanted different looking lights instead of the silver ones.
The historic ones,
Wanted
the green.
historic decorative, and moved
decorative.
the box back,
Oh, okay.
and put a sign, Middletown sign.
You,
on the
I
wall.
think you were around this. Yeah, you remember that.
Yeah.
I've said this, but we don't. From what I was told, we don't have the room to do it.
I don't think you have the room.
I would put a roundabout there
You're
tomorrow.
dealing with the slope on the south side.
tractor
trailers out,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh, wait, say that again.
So we cut out a lot of the tractor trailers and might start coming through from the
No, they'll just run
warehouse.
up over everything.
Yeah, they actually, for truck traffic, they make them drivable. You actually drive over the center part
Yeah.
to accommodate trucks.
I'm going to say all those roundabouts the city put in. I have a small box truck and I go over every one of them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know who designed that.
Yeah, I'm always open to any suggestions. I'll be glad to track down, whatever direction we would like to go in for those. But I fear we'd be well into three figures to do something significant.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm thinking for $3 or $4 grand, I can at least make it look nice for a couple of years with some plants until we find the money tree that grows.
Yeah, I get it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I like it. I'm just,
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Sure.
Hey, Matt, you might want to, I don't know if you want to mention, because this is more recent, you submitted a needs report to, was that to HATS about the
Oh, yes.
concerns on Main Street with the warehouses going in Londonderry Township?
Yes, thank you.
Oh.
HATS did solicit information from the municipalities that are part of the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. And I did put on there that the Vine Street and Main and Union and Main intersections do not handle truck traffic well. I noted that the traffic signal had been hit numerous times, and the borough invested money each time to, whatever insurance didn't recoup, we had to make up for. And specifically due to the increase in truck traffic that is most likely going to come. The traffic studies can be whatever they want. Most truck drivers today are just doing whatever the GPS is telling them in the truck, and they will turn where it tells them to turn. And I fear that everything heading eastbound from 283 will probably get off at Vine Street to go to the warehouses. They will not drive past it to get off at Toll House.
Toll House
back there.
Road,
Their
right.
GPS will tell them the shortest direction. And we will probably see a significant amount of truck increase because of that. And that intersection, it's the intersection of two state routes. We don't have a lot of control over what we can do there, but I did put that on the HATS to bring attention that it's a concern of ours. They did say that once they compile everything, they will reach out to the individual municipalities to further define what the issues are. This was a kind of a 10,000-foot fact-finding mission that they were doing right now. So hopefully we can get somewhere with that, but I would imagine that would be a few years in the future as well, at best, till that would happen.
Matt, I understand that the GPS gives them the shortest way. Do you think that HATS could dictate to the warehouse owners that if they're dealing with deliveries over time, the same people, not newbies who are figuring out for the first time, but say, for public safety or whatever, you have to use Toll House Road, or we prefer you use Toll House Road?
No,
Public roads.
HATS is just they put together a transportation study, and it goes to PennDOT for their needs to get things in the queue. But HATS will they facilitate putting those reports together, and I don't think they have any authority to tell a warehouse what to do with trucking.
I did ask HRG to give a proposal for the truck turning radius at that intersection. And they can study that, and they can tell us what size trucks are capable of moving through that intersection safely while staying within the confines of the intersection, not driving over the curb and sidewalk. We could potentially post the roadways because that intersection cannot handle that size vehicle. I think there would be a lot of repercussion, and there would be a lot of things to work through there since it is two state routes. But pretty much the size tractor trailers that are out there now cannot negotiate that, and it will show on the plan.
what
that's
intersection are we
smart.
talking about?
Main and
Vine and Main.
Oh, yeah. We don't own Vine, right? That's,
they're both state routes.
So PennDOT.
we should do a road swap and take
That's a
Vine
good
Street,
idea.
and then we own it, and then we post it.
Yeah, let them take care of it. That would be that's yeah. And I think that's something that, as we prove that there's an issue there,
Right,
I think
right.
that helps our case for having something done on a bigger
dollar,
scale.
yeah.
And if something would come out, this could potentially be used as some of our match, that we've already invested money into finding out what the problem is.
Yeah.
I mean,
The fact that it's two state roads might even force them to put it in their budget to get it done sooner.
Correct.
Yeah, but what you're missing is if we own Vine Street, hear me out, if we own Vine Street, we could post it, we could make a weight prohibited, X amount of.
Well, it's very regulated to
Okay.
do that.
Well, what I'm getting at is that intersection, if the state owns it and they need to get trucks through there, they have a little tool called eminent domain, and they can now start taking people's or property and make that intersection bigger. And who's at that intersection? Members First and Seven Sorrows Cemetery. So that's what I'm saying. Oh, well, it's not big enough, and we have all these trucks. Oh, okay, well, we'll
One
take.
of which would be extremely hard to do eminent domain on.
They don't do cemeteries.
Oh, they don't do cemeteries?
No, it's, so there, but I mean, at least we've put feelers out, recognizing there's a problem, recognizing
that's
the
good.
problem's going to get worse. We've at least laid some groundwork that we may be able to find some kind of relief in the future.
Uh-huh.
That's the best I think we can do with this part, because, we don't have any control over those roadways.
Yeah. But just talking to PennDOT and demonstrating an issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
If any of you have heard of their 12-year plan, this is how things get onto that 12-year plan, through hats and recommendations and so forth. And then they get programmed into the 12-year plan to come to fruition or not. Just depends on the priority and.
They'll prioritize them based upon the accidents, complaints, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Economic drivers,
Yeah.
are part of it as well.
That's right.
So there's a lot of things that factor into that, but as of now, I believe this is the best thing that we can do to try and get our foot in the door.
That's good, thanks.
You're
Well,
very welcome.
I think it's a waste of time, but whatever. I think we need more direct. I think we need a more. What's the word I'm looking for? Londonderry created this problem. It is going to be on our doors very, very soon. And to get on some program 12 years down the road, after 15, 20 accidents and all kinds of issues, is to me not being very proactive about it. Yes, it's great we're doing it. I think we should do it, but I won't be sitting here in 12 years. You won't be sitting here in 12 years, and think of all the crap that will happen in that time span.
I mean,
So-
I don't know if it carries any weight. If council people know people, I don't know if it would be helpful in this process if council drafts a single letter from the borough council to add importance to what's going on. I don't know, Jim, if you've dealt with that.
Well, I will say, I don't know if you talked to Alexa at,
That's what we
I mean, she's coordinating, the county's trying to do this.
Right.
Right now, to actually accelerate everything. So there's already a big coordinated effort going on in this corridor because of the warehouses.
Yeah.
And they,
She's
pretty
been
much,
talking-
she said, we have.
She's been talking to London.
Yeah, we have dump trucks of money to throw,
Right. Right.
so, I think this is a out of the ordinary, easier time to,
Oh,
try to analyze that stuff, and they have all kinds of grant monies apparently flowing in there to do lots of traffic studies and.
I think if we get accident data that deals with trucks scraping a car, trying to make corners, it'd be good if we could get that from, coordinate and get that stuff from the police department. And if you're getting HRG to look at the radiuses and they draw something up for you, that we send that stuff to Alexa.
Yeah, I think District 8 now is getting more,
Yeah.
so I know, we're over in Lower Terre, we have a lot going on too, and we represent Londonderry. But we have a lot of development going on in Lower Terre.
Right.
And all the traffic studies, PennDOT started hearing, when we're saying, look, you're not accounting for all the background noise
Right.
that is about to come online, and they are requiring some new traffic impact studies in the middle of the, land development plan, where they're saying, oh, yeah, all this stuff is, we now are looking at, these warehouses are coming on, these housing developments, this school, this blah, 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 and it's, all your assumptions we're now looking at, we think they were wrong. So for your HOP and your highway occupancy permit, you gotta do a new traffic study, and that's just popped up in the last, 2-3 weeks or so.
That's the hard thing with the traffic study, because typically the traffic study would only ever look at what that site is developing and generating as far as volumes, when there is all of these other things going on simultaneously. So it is good to hear that they're looking.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to look beyond that, but they had not been doing a good job of that. Everybody's kind of, they're almost artificial. We all know from living here what's going on with the warehouses, and I've been in a lot of the warehouses for inspections and things. And you don't realize there are 26 acres for each floor in those places. They're massive.
they're huge.
And, you know, most of them have not gotten the first truck there yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you see them, you know, they all are gonna have, you know, several hundred employees per shift.
Right.
You're talking about, you know, tens of thousands of new people living in there. I mean, this is gonna be a lot more complicated environment than it was, you know, last year.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Very much.
If you have anything, let me know.
Oh, did you get the number 3? Or did I miss that? Is it the municipal bid sales, the transfer of the funds? Did you mention that? You wanted to transfer 48,116,
Yes.
which is a portion of the 63,218 that we realized in the sale of I should say, old property that we disposed of. One of them being an old chipper that brought in quite a bit of money. Matt would like to get it on the agenda for the next business, or next meeting, that we
Yes.
approve transferring that into your sinking
The
fund.
newly created sinking fund.
Excellent, and that's great. I'm so
Yeah.
glad. I mean, you keep this up. If we can liquidate stuff, especially getting this kind of money, you
That
know,
was the big hurrah. There's a little bit left to go, but that was 13 pieces of stuff.
Huh.
that's excellent
Very
though.
good.
But if we can clean house, make room, add to our sinking fund, acquire new equipment, that's a huge win for the borough and the taxpayer.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you
Thank-
for your
Thank
continued
you.
support.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 16, Director Wright.
Good evening. I'll
Good
try to
evening.
keep it below 45 minutes or so.
Thank you.
Look at him.
So just a quick PD staffing update. We currently have 3 open positions. We had 3 applicants in the queue. 1 accepted the job initially. He was currently a police officer in Berks County. He called me back a week later and declined the position. 1 accepted who's in the academy, and 1 had an unfavorable background investigation. For an action item for next time, Attorney Diamond provided a civil service ordinance change which allowed council to waive the Act 120 requirement upon my request for certain testing periods. We didn't want to make it a permanent change, just depending on the hiring climate at the time. We may want to waive it, or we may not want to waive it. So on my request, we would be able to waive that. It also takes the county consortium off the ordinance. They're no longer part of the hiring process. Also, we're selling one of our cars also. I'm not sure if that's a separate, or is it going on it's on the same one, 2013 Chevy Caprice that was gathering dust in the back parking lot. And the traffic study that was going to be done for the Wharton Street area and the Penn State campus traffic issue, we put that on hold because it was getting close to the end of the semester, and we wanted an accurate traffic count and speed, so we're going to try to get it done immediately upon the beginning of the next semester. So it'll have a little better reliability.
Great.
So that's all I have.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Dan? Thank you very much for your time. Agenda item number 17, Viola and the joint venture. Doesn't look like they're with us this evening. Agenda item number 18, council. At this time, does council have anything they would like to share, update, bring to our attention? Anybody?
Good.
Excellent. At this time, do I have general public comment? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is David McDermott. I live at 569 North Union Street in Middletown. I'm basically coming to you guys asking for help. Carmoni Avenue, parallels my house and the graveyard. And the chief, he's been helping out with it, and the police officer's been helping out with it, but they just can't seem to, they have other things to do to spend time than just sitting on the alleyway. I get 30, 40 cars a day that go the wrong way at a high rate of speed, going towards North Union Street.
Oh, mm-hmm.
My girls play the graveyard. I just had to call them the other day because I almost got hit. I was pulling my motorcycle out of the garage, looking for traffic that would be coming the right way. I had a gentleman at a high rate of speed come the wrong way, missed me by inches, and almost killed me. The other day, I'm up on the ladder. I have the cones out at North Union so that the traffic won't turn down. I'm trying to fix my gutter on the corner of my house that was struck by a truck that illegally went down the alleyway for the third time since I've lived there. The gentleman came speeding up the wrong way, almost hit me on the ladder. I confronted him, said, "Hey, can you back up?" And he went south real quick. I walked away, called the police. They came out. And brings me to the other issue. I mean, they did move the signs for the no truck, no bus, because it used to sit back closer to the graveyard. They moved it out to the front. It's helped a little bit, but I'm still getting trucks that are way too big, way too wide, way too high, going down the alleyway. And I just don't know what, I'm at the point now.
Trucks coming off of Union Street.
Yeah, if I put in one more claim with my homeowner insurance, they're gonna drop.
What, I'm trying to picture
They
this.
ripped my gutters off the side of my house. If you go down the alleyway, you'll see that I put, they're about the size of railroad ties, but they're made out of stone and granite. When I put them down, there was 4 of them. There's now like 16 pieces left. I just don't know what to do.
To Spring.
Yeah, I can picture it.
before
I'm just
anyone
trying to,
responds,
I'm gonna
I-
visualize it.
Apologize, because I did reach out, I just haven't circled back to you, and I did get an answer for you, so I don't know, Mr. Wright, if you wanna come up and,
It was collectively, we discussed it, among.
yeah, sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I mean, the cops have been out there, I give them credit. I mean, they've
This
been
one?
doing patrols and things.
There's a couple signs that were truck signs.
There's Ginrich Memorial, this alleyway.
Highway put a larger sign in closer to the intersection, you also put it.
There's Ginrich Memorial.
They put one, yeah, there used to be one do not enter sign.
Harmony.
But
Right
there's
there.
confusion because if you go down,
Wait, one second till they're done, because otherwise they're not gonna hear.
I'm
what
sorry,
you're
I'm
saying.
trying to visualize this. I wanna, I really,
Carmoni Avenue, where the headstone place is
gotcha. I'm looking at it now,
it's on the
okay.
left.
Sorry, do you wanna explain what,
So
the explanation you gave me?
It's a two-way. It's a two-way alley from Spring Street halfway up, and then it becomes one-way.
But it's confusing because if you go past the do not enter signs, about 15 feet, there's a one-way sign.
Right.
So, and the problem I'm having is when Penn State students are here, and I'm not blaming it all on them because the one they ticketed, the guy lived on Spring Street, and he's a resident, but the cars that I'm seeing that are going fast, that campus housing there, they pull right out of there and
Turn that
fly
off.
up because of the traffic on Warden and the traffic going by the mayor's house. It's easier to cut through.
There's another alley called Peters,
So,
which is also
and I'm
one-way.
wondering,
And if you would take the one-way on Carmody all the way down, there's an apartment complex in the middle there that would have difficulty accessing their apartments from that side of Spring Street. I believe that's why the alley's two-way halfway up, to give them access to their,
but Peters on the other side goes all the way to the street, so I'm asking if they could flop it.
Flip 'em.
Because Peters, you can't see it as well because it's between two houses. Where Carmoni, it's wide open because the graveyard's there, it's just a clear sight, people just see it and go, and they go flying up it.
So let me ask you this question. If you're on Union Street and you, at that red brick building right before the cemetery.
Yeah.
And you make that left, if like you're leaving town, you make that left onto Carmoni, where it says do not enter. So is your problem people coming off of Union and turning onto that?
They're not coming off Union, they're coming off Spring, making the left and going towards Union.
I think he's having two problems. Speeders coming from Spring, heading toward Union. Trucks coming off of Union to go toward Spring, hitting his house.
And, right, and my other issue is
Oh my
vehicles that are either, whether they're going the right way or the wrong way, they're still going way too fast.
Well, what I'm thinking is, because I've seen this, and this little, it's hard to explain, that little, like, when you're on Union and you got to make that little turn, and it's like that short, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it goes in and then it goes like this.
That little section there, that like 200 feet of roadway. What if that roadway ceased to exist?
I would love that.
Like literally vacate that 200 feet of the roadway, where you could only come onto Carmoni off of North Spring Street.
But he has a garage in the middle of that roadway that he would have to access, so it would become his private driveway.
Well, that's what happens when you vacate a roadway. It becomes.
Cemetery has an access there as well.
Yeah, it splits at the center line.
See this curve right here. So if you're on, this is one way, and what's happening is people are coming this way out,
Belongs to,
where you're only, or maybe I have it vice versa. But if you were to vacate, this is actually, he's got a point here.
That's
Get rid of
his
it. Get rid of
driveway.
it.
That's not
Herbie.
ours.
Turn there, though.
No, if you were to vacate
They're
from
utilizing, but it's
the
not
road
theirs.
from Union Street to here and get rid of it, to where you could only, the only way you could come up here
Dan,
would
do
be
you have
through
any
North Spring
recommendations?
Street.
Again, we've spent a lot of enforcement time out there, and
Right.
one person drive on the alley legally. I mean, I was out there for an hour the other morning and not one car used the alley. So enforcement hasn't worked just because we've spent an inordinate amount of time there and have had a few citations out of it. And actually, some of the people we cited knew exactly what they were doing.
They don't care.
They weren't college kids who were not from the area and didn't know where they were going. It was somebody 2 a.m. trying to get a shortcut on his way to work.
Now, I have a
So-
I have a camera out there on the bridge. Go to my Facebook page, you'll see, I post all the cars going the wrong way, and I post the cars going the right way. But
Putting
they're,
the do not enter sign, if you come up Carmody, there's 2 do not enter signs.
and they know they're there, and they don't care.
That are either being disregarded or not seen. If you put them at Spring Street, I think less people would make that turn and go up the wrong way.
Mhm.
Then it impacts the people who live in that apartment complex.
If you couldn't get from, if you couldn't get onto Union on that alleyway, you physically couldn't get there. It was just in it ceased to exist. You would only be using that road,
You're talking,
that little.
block it there.
Yeah, if you got rid of that, the only people that would use that roadway would be the very local traffic. But you wouldn't be able to come through. You'd be forced to go, down the next block and use the actual road.
I spent $3,000 in my, whatever you want to call it, the copay on my homeowner so far, and like right now, the gutters, I can't find somebody to fix them. And I was telling them, my downspout right next to my electrical box got hit. Thank God they hit the downspout, not my electrical box.
And that's from trucks.
Yeah.
Those are from trucks.
They look like railroad ties, and they're made out of stone that I put out to help keep them away from my house. There's 4 pieces when I put it out 3 years ago. There's like 16 pieces now.
What kind of trucks you saying? They're like delivery trucks because of,
I have, if you look at my Facebook page, there's oversized UPS trucks, there's oversized Giant Direct trucks,
FedEx.
there's bigger FedEx trucks, the bigger Amazon trucks, errands, I have pictures of them. I've got pictures of bigger trucks going the wrong way. And I just don't know what to do.
they're trying to get to somebody in the local area there to make a
Right.
delivery or.
Well, and it doesn't help that Google Maps send them up there. 'Cause
Right.
And it also, when you were talking about the Garmin and stuff, there is a specific Garmin out there for commercial vehicles. but the companies don't buy them. They buy the ones for cars, because they're $30-40. The commercial one's $300. But the commercial, because I have a commercial license, you put your truck's weight and height in it. And it'll tell you, and it'll send you the way that you need to go. It won't let you go on roads that you weigh too much for, and it won't let you go on, where bridges are too low.
Yeah, underpasses, so forth.
But people don't buy them because they're $300, and the car Garmin's $30. Or nowadays, everybody's using Google Maps, but that doesn't help.
Google
you.
Maps
Truck
should integrate that into there. They should have a
They have it,
commercial.
they have it.
It's a good
But I know from
pitch
like
for
the
Google.
commercial Garmin, like when I go to states like Virginia, you better damn well have it, because they're not like PA troopers. They'll write you for everything under the sun, or take your vehicle.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I don't know, but I've actually seen that curve for years, thinking it was the dumbest thing in the world.
I'm here looking for a solution. I mean, the police have tried to help me.
Dan, what if it was no trucks allowed?
It
Can
is.
we make that?
It is, and they
Oh, it
ignore
already is.
If you go up North Union, they were kind enough to move the sign out to North Union.
Oh.
And you can see it both ways, because it's on both sides. It says no trucks, no buses. If you go to my Facebook page, I got plenty of pictures, because I put a camera out there now because of them hitting everything and me having to pay for it. I mean, the very first person that hit it when I moved in is people who do our trash. They had a new driver, and instead of going, he thought that the street he was turning on was where the mayor is, but no, he turned down mine and almost ripped off the side of my house.
And that's
Many more delivery trucks on the road today because of all the different services now.
Yep. And they all
A lot of
just,
different drivers in and out, yeah. Even your private people.
If
You
we-
have trouble keeping drivers.
Let me ask you a question. If we just did a little mini traffic study and we took barricades and blocked that little section off for 2 weeks, just to see what happens. I mean, just for argument's sake.
I'm not opposed to any of it.
I'm just like, throw a barricade up for 2 weeks and just say, what happens? What's the result by doing this? Like, you can't go through it.
and I've already told all my neighbors around me that I was gonna come to you and looking for something and a solution, and they understand why.
You're gonna get people coming off Spring will come up and no the barricades there until they're up against it and they'll be backing back down.
You could put a road closed sign at the do not enter sign.
Yeah, there you could, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just talking about that little
You
stretch.
have to do it at both ends.
Right, but I mean, like, on the other side of my garage, so I can still get my bike out, put do not enter there and up top.
Yeah.
I have no issue with that at all.
And I don't know I was looking at the map. I don't know exactly where your house is.
Where, I'm,
Is that?
I'll show you where.
Or Leon Daly.
Is this
Isn't he
the
where
center?
Leon Daly used to live?
Oh, you don't have the,
yeah.
I mean, I can't.
satellite.
With the big windows,
Yep,
red brick house, big windows.
and I put a lot of money into fixing it up, and it just
Yeah.
kills me when, I mean, those gutters are brand new.
Yeah.
And I've replaced them twice now.
There's high
And I haven't done the downspouts yet, because I just saw the money. to
That's
do it.
him, right there.
Yeah, this is that I'm talking about. I'm
Yeah.
talking about like there and like literally like a
Yeah,
barricade there and there.
There and there and then here.
Well, I mean, I would just like to see it there because you still want to, be able to access that.
We're gonna have all those people trying to turn around the cemetery.
They cut through the cemetery now, eh?
The trucks will be taking out the tombstones.
Well, but I mean,
I think if you're gonna try,
You
you
would have
just.
laughed the other day watching the box truck try to go through those.
oh, I see, Ken. I see now looking at this. I see it would work there. I see that. Right at where this. This is actually that 35 unit.
Okay.
But there and there, so that the traffic for this 35 unit could get up there. These people would still be able to get up to there, but you couldn't come through.
I see what you're saying.
This road you'd still have because this guy uses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very tight back there.
It is.
It is extremely
I
tight.
drive it up.
And I think I'm actually guilty of that. I've
I drive a
cut
Ford
there
F-150,
myself.
and I'll tell you what.
Been in this
I
town long
drive
enough.
Slowly to go in, because I barely fit. So when you get even a Amazon Transit
Mhm.
van, they're wider than my truck.
Mhm.
And you can see in the videos where they're doing this is because they hit the curbing.
Gotcha.
And I just don't know what to do, so.
Hmm.
I'm sorry. I just didn't know what, I don't know what, I mean, the police have been really good working with me. Mark,
Mhm.
the sergeant's been working with me, the director's been working with me. And they're not having any success because of the weird times that these people are doing it. I mean, on the video, there was a couple cars the other day. I think one was at 2:00, one was at 4:00, one was at 6. And then, like, the students coming out, I don't get any of them on Sunday night or Monday night, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, oh my God. And the one video the other day, there's the couple who, they take those little cars, they take them around the block. The car coming the wrong way, they literally miss each other by 2 minutes. And
I
if
can
the
see
kids
that.
come around and the kids come up, it would have been disastrous. As fast as the
Hmm.
guy was going. I mean, he was doing a good 35, 40 miles an hour. He would have killed him. And I'm basically pleading to you guys to do something.
Mhm.
I'm open to suggestions. I'm no
Yeah, I mean,
traffic
we'll do
study
that if
expert.
There's nothing obvious. Right.
I don't know what the solution is. I just, the other day when I was pulling my bike out, and that was my retirement present to myself, and the guy literally, I mean, he missed me by this much. Because I wasn't looking that way for traffic. I was looking up the other way towards North Union. And then I'm up trying to fix basically the gutters because where they hit it, it's pinched, and now it's leaning like this, so the water's not draining. I had to get up with the storm coming to cut it. He scared the hell out of me coming up the other way. And then he's yelling at me like, well, what are you doing on the ladder in the middle of the road? Like, I have North Union blocked off because that's where traffic should be legally coming.
Well, we thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah.
Thank you for hearing me out.
Yeah.
And if you guys could do something, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other general public comment at this time? Ms. Knoll?
I'm sorry. I want to go home too, trust me. So, I heard the retainer for HRG to do a study on the land for the pool. Was there any ideas thrown out by you guys as to what you wanted there? Because I see in the retainer where there was no splash pad, no mist holes, no pool. That tells me it's not going to be a water feature or replace something that was down there. Has there been to talk about it? Because I've been watching your meetings and I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, there's 2 studies on. There's one going on now called a pros plan study that we already funded. It's looking at all parks and open space. And in that steering committee, there's been discussions about
Dog park?
different
Mm-hmm.
different options. It could be nothing settled on, just discussion. Probably in another month or 2, you'll see at least a draft come before council, but it's not going to pick something for that. This study that we're proposing now would get more into, okay, then you're going to have to look at what options do you want to pick?
Right.
And that part of that is be a public discussion to hear what the residents say about it.
I hope when you do this public discussion and just, you post it more than just your Facebook. I hope that there's maybe something put out to other people so that they can put their input into this, because first of all, there's 2 Facebook pages, you don't know which one to follow.
True.
First and foremost, people are like, well, there's no council meeting because there's nothing there. So I hope that there's something either put on the back of the electric bills to say there is a discussion on the pool property and what to do with it, other than just posting on the Facebook page.
And I know one of the important reasons we are doing this study is so that we can use that to help us get grant money, grant
Mhm.
funding
Yes.
for that area.
Yeah.
So that was one of the
I read
reasons.
that.
Okay.
I also looked at the legal bills, and I saw that there was litigation for LaBrandy. Where are we? There's been no updates.
Yeah, those go in executive session.
I understand, but they've also had some out here where they say what's going on. I mean, because here's the thing, what people don't understand, if we lose this case, there's a couple of you up there on this 4-year plan or 5-year plan where you keep increasing taxes. If we lose the Brandy, we're not only gonna raise taxes 2 times, you're gonna raise them 4 times to make up for his electricity. So it would be nice if the public was updated a little bit as to what's going on with that case. The other thing I saw on the highway about the new uniforms, did we not just purchase new uniforms for our employees 6 years ago? We just changed everything around 6 years ago? How long?
It's gotta be more like 12.
Mm-hmm. We
I've
just
never-
changed all the pants and the shirts while I was on. No, we did the pants too.
We've had Cintas since I've been here.
Yeah. How much is it costing us,
What's that?
the uniforms?
Cintas was $1,000 a month, this is around $5,000.
A month?
One-time fee.
Perfect.
For a minute, I thought you meant a month.
So did
was like,
I.
Oh my gosh.
You said you were down at the boat landing. Do you know the portable docks floating in the river? Okay. Like unattached? Okay. The beautification, who's gonna maintain the pods once they're done? Like they do now?
Thank you. Any other general public comment? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? We will be going to executive session to discuss personnel and potential litigation. We will not be returning. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's get out of here.